What is happening? Hi.
Where's my camera? Hi.
It's us. It's us guys. It's that one.
I see it now.
It's that one over there.
I see it now.
It's like relearning the wheel. It's like, I know we know how to ride bicycles, but maybe we're not really knowing how to ride the bicycles. Alrighty. What's happening, everybody? We're back. Nobody's here.
We back.
They forgot about us.
Aww.
They already don't love us anymore. It's Friday. Everybody's gone.
Sad about that.
Well, I'm going to paint anyway. I don't care.
Me too.
I don't care. I'm going to paint anyway.
I haven't painted since the last time we streamed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my britches.
Arvids, what's going on, man? 16 freaking months. Thank you, my friend. What is happening? You didn't kill them all with fire? No, because that means we wouldn't have a freaking house anymore.
We really do like our house.
So yeah, I'm
We
having
like it,
to.
hopefully more than the termites.
I'm having to try really, really hard right now not to look over here for my camera. It's all backwards for us, right? Yours used to be on the left too. Oh, this is so screwy.
Because you had to be on that side.
Yeah, I did. Because this thing was mounted up here already.
Yeah.
From the old room, so. My name is Slow. Didn't realize it would take you that long to be back to streaming. It was only a week.
2 days off.
It was only a week. Like, we streamed a week ago.
Off. Yeah, we streamed last Friday.
We streamed last Friday. Yeah. It's been a week.
2 streams, that's it.
That just means he loves us so much that he's been crying. He's been crying himself to sleep all week long.
Yep.
So we do have to feel sort of bad for him because that's our fault.
Well,
Big Bob has been losing sleep and crying a lot, right? So that's cost him Kleenex or whatever he mops his tears with.
Yes.
Shirt sleeves, lots of laundry, salt tears, right? Probably a little bit of work anxiety because his performance levels have gone down since he hasn't been sleeping right.
Yes.
So I feel like that's on us, Big Bob, and I do
Sorry,
feel bad.
Bob.
I feel about this bad right here. That's a lot. That's a lot of bad for me. So Metal God, what's happening?
Well, hi there.
Click, click. What's going on? Welcome back, everybody. We are back. We've been gone so long. It's been so hard without you. I'm just going to sing all stream. It's that kind of a welcome back thing.
Enjoy it.
It's that kind of a welcome back stream. I feel like I should just sing everything. And now we're going to layer a few shadows.
I thought you didn't like musicals. That's essentially what you'd be doing.
It's really the dancing. It's really the dancing that gets me more than the singing. And
there's going to be dancing. I'm just going to tell you.
You're going to dance?
If
I keep singing, you're going to dance?
There will be dancing. There will be.
You see how my life is?
Deal with it.
You see how my life is? This is what we have to deal with.
Welcome back, Cotter theme song. Welcome back.
You watch all the past casts during the week because you're usually unable to watch. That's good, World Eaters. So it's like we were never gone. It's like we were never done.
No, he said it was boring because we had no streams.
Kenny! Kenny! Welcome, everybody. What is happening? Telebadger 16 freaking months in a row. Look at that.
Throw back my legs.
It's like I'm
omnipotent.
Omniscient. Psycho. I knew what was happening before it happened. Killing with fire is the only way to be sure. Nuke it from orbit. Maui Blood, 16 freaking months. All the lying liars who lie are right here. Right here
I sent an order
with us.
to
Welcome
Maui
everybody coming over from Kenny's. Hope you've enjoyed Kenny's stream, and before that, Key Lime Prime on a Friday.
Well, huzzah,
Now you're stuck with us.
I'll just
Telemachus
throw back
also.
my legs
What is
and
this?
pollute my
16.
britches with delight.
I think you're all
16 is
lying.
the magic number.
I think you're all lying. Can't all be 16.
Myrtle's 26.
Drac, what's going on? Myrtle, 26 months. Again, I see it before it happens.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Look, Banjo, what's happening? Thank you for the
Big
follow.
Bob, 18 months.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Shinkai, 13 months.
See, we go away for a few days, and all of a sudden, it's out of hand. It's out of hand. Dead Sky, what's happening? It is going wonderfully now that we are back to streaming. We were off for a week. Myrtle, 26.
Pollute my britches with
I feel like I just said that. Thank you, my friend. Mucho appreciado.
26 is crazy, by the way.
Hugs and kisses to all you guys. What's that?
26 is crazy.
26 is fairly crazy.
Well, huzzah, huzzah. I'll just
Bow!
throw back my legs and pollute my
Big Bob,
britches
18
with delight.
freaking months. What is happening? But yeah, we're doing great. Finally that we are back on. And yes, as World Eater says, we're in a different room. We're in the studio is in an entirely new setup
Throw back my
now.
legs and pollute
Shinkai,
my
13
britches
months. I
with
feel like I
delight.
just said that one too.
We did. We said it before the bot.
So yeah, we're in a totally different room. This is the more creative room in the house, actually, and it's the room that we used to do the Gloves Off Sunday show from, if you
Studio
remember
B.
back then with Uncle Touchy. So we used to have like the gaming table in here. We do the live bat reps. You used to sit over there with the camera on. We had like a bajillion cameras in here, all sorts of angles. We did all sorts of really cool live bat reps with the Infinity guys from Maya Cast and some other guest streamers that came over. And then when Uncle Touchy abandoned us, cry. Everybody shed a tear, one tear. If you look like on my finger,
You made that choice.
on my finger there is a tear. That's
There
an
is a
upside down
tear,
tear. It's such an old tattoo that it's like it used to have a skull in the middle of it. I swear to God.
Wow.
But there's not anymore. But this is me crying one single tattooed tear for Uncle Touchy's abandonment.
I want that. I want that on my finger right there.
It's funny, right?
I like it.
I had it long before everybody started doing the mustache thing and all. But I had the cry one tear for you thing. And my buddy had the world's smallest violin on his finger, and that's what prompted me to do it. He had a violin. He had like the bow on one finger and the violin on the other. And when you would whinge, he would play his violin on his fingers. So I got a tear. But anyway, so after Uncle Touchy left, this room literally just became storage for us for the shop. So all of the go bags were in here. The gaming table got reduced in size and turned into the assembly for all the racks. So when I would package up the racks, that happened in here. So it was literally just a room that got forgotten. It was the forgotten room. Rocket Chick had 23. What's going on? So anyway, it's been in here not doing anything, but there's amazing stuff in here. We got really cool art. You can see all the art behind Jen. So all the walls are loaded with really cool artwork in here. You guys can't see it all, but we got this one that my big fat head hides, which is one of my favorite pieces of art ever. It's from a guy in California called Big Toe, and it's a Department of Mental Health county. It's a LA County Department of Mental Health parking sign from the psycho ward. At the I think at the prison.
Hospital?
I think it was at the prison actually.
Department of Mental Health at the prison.
I think it was at the correctional facility, and it was a sign that when they redid the parking lot, he had a buddy that was a construction laborer brought it to him, and he painted this crazy straight jacketed.
Is awesome.
It's got a straight jacketed pirate on it running away. So that's my claim to fame. I have that cool thing.
But the best thing about our new room.
Oh, Jesus. Can you look
close.
at how
I don't
close?
even have to move.
We are way too close to one another. It's just not. If you've been watching the social media stuff, literally our desks are in a corner together now, and I built a cool contraption for all the monitors and Command Central. She's way too close.
Super cool. Yes, JP Gray has slept on the floor in this room.
JP and Liz slept on the floor in this room, actually, yes. This is our guest room.
Because we are terrible hosts who don't have a bed for guests.
Hey, but we have all sorts of other fun stuff, so, We could have we offered to give them a tent, and they could have camped out back, but for some reason they didn't want to. It was even early in the year. Well, no, it was already kind of hot. April?
It was like
March or
May,
April or something like that, maybe.
Something
May.
like that, yeah.
I don't remember. I think that it's just because they're wusses and they don't like nature much. Freaking guys.
All
Yeah,
right.
exactly, Big Bob. It's way too freaking close for comfort here because there's like now she can sneak the Willy in now. I said that live on TV. But she can like sneak the Willies across the way.
I can also rub your back, rub your head. He likes that.
That's the way she does. She lulls me into a state of complacency.
Dirty little thing.
Right? Like
Not dirty.
I feel like she's lulling me into
Extra
a
space in the room after the termites ate all the stuff.
Yeah.
No, we you know what? The termites were a blessing in disguise.
They actually were.
Because we really did a complete remodel, and we are making much better use of our space. The store is set up so much better now. So it's awesome.
I did not get a beholder. I don't know that Lando ever sent one. I told him he needed to let us know if he was mailing stuff because we don't check the P.O. box all the time. So if you ever send us stuff and you don't let us know, I keep wanting to look over here. My camera used to be over here. Like it was over here, and now it's over here. So I think at one point in time we've been streaming for so long, the cameras have moved so many times.
Yeah.
I think before it was, I don't know.
You'll get
But we
used
did this because now you can read our shirts correctly. Our shirts, like when they look at your shirt, yours actually does say that the unicorn loves the snail. Unicorn. I'm just being inappropriate.
See, it's bad for me too.
I told her I can get lots of butt grabs in. Oh God, dirty old man show. So
We are quick, Arsenal. That's why we, like when you order, make sure you're ready to order. You don't want to.
oh heck, today was a good day because we had a lot of orders come
Oh my
in.
gosh! While I was packing,
While she was
orders,
packing up, we
whole
had like a
bunch
half a
came
dozen
in.
orders come through right at the end of the day, and they all got sent out like same day shipping.
like within 20 minutes of ordering, it got shipped. That might have been Arsenal.
Ray, we've got all sorts of art. We have so much art that most of it's not even on the walls. In
We have
here,
so
there's a
much.
good like dozen or so paintings, and even more because on the shelves and stuff. There's a bunch you can't see on this wall over here. One of my favorite painters, Damien. All of my Damien stuff is on this wall. He's got really good lowbrow art, and there's all sorts of really cool stuff. So you can kind of see some of it behind Jen over there. There's a really cool octopus with the skateboard and all the purple and green over there behind you. Yeah, over there, whatever, right above the unicorn there. Anyway. This is a much more creative room than the room that we streamed in before that was literally our stock room. So, life is good. Sean Men's Prince, thank you so much. 3 freaking months, Sean, on your way. Thank you. Thank you. Grins, by the way, can you pull out the Gunpla? I want to show your brother the VOD later. I can. I even brought it in the room today. I really did. I'm not even lying.
Chuck Whiffendiver sent you an order as well today.
You're disappointed that we're not dressed up for the late Halloween stream? Yeah, we had stuff to do, and my Halloween costume was that I was going to dye my beard and get all young looking for you guys. My beard is so silver that literally, I mean, you can tell it's not quite as bright gray as it used to be, but that's all it did. Like the dye is done. The dye just gave up. It's like your beard is just over the top silver gray. We're not doing anything for you anymore. I was too lazy to like do 4 applications of the stuff because you got to apply it and then you got to shower. Then you got to apply it and then you got to shower. I take 4 showers and I'm like prune up.
Oh, Snot Rash said he'll send a Grease 2 poster for the wall.
Huh?
There's a space right here for it. We
Huh?
wouldn't be able to see it, but I would be able to look at it all the time.
Huh?
Right there.
What?
Oh.
Oh. Those aren't even words that I'm hearing right now. Let's pull out this Gundam model real quick for Grins to look at.
Oh, I like that other one, by the way.
So this is the state of the Gundam. It hasn't changed. Right? Like it legit hasn't changed much. We just started the airbrushing on it. The last thing we did was start in on the red, doing all the hand painting, blending on the red to get the highlights and stuff on the red, and then started basing some of the blues. So I'm going through and doing all that, and then I got to come back in with the reds more, and then do the brush work on the whites to do all the edge highlighting for the white armor, stuff like that. There's still so much to do. I stopped because I had to find a 1/100th scale enemy model, right? Because we were going to do the diorama with the one that Keylime sent us, the Zaku, but they never fought a Zaku and the Exia. So I didn't want to go too far out. Everybody was like, oh, but you could do Gundam Build Fighter. No. I was like, no, we're not going to do that. So we got a 1/100th ground type, which is the enemy mecha thing for the Exia to fight. Like Exia fought them in Gundam 00 in the first like 15-20 minutes or something like that. One of them fought. So we got one of that model, and I haven't built it yet. So it kind of put that on delay. Kind of like the Tank Girl got put on delay. But today I'm painting Tank Girl. Ta-da! This is our Tank Girl model. It's not a Tank Girl model. It's actually a model of a pilot for the Maschinen Krieger stuff. Well, I don't know that she's technically a Maschinen Krieger pilot. It's like a Japanese garage resin kit is what it is. It's a very, not hard to find, but they come in limited release, so it's hard to get timely because they only make them every now and then. But it's the right scale for our Maschinen Krieger Mark 44 combat suit that we started in on. I did a YouTube video on how to do the texturing of the steel on this when you get a model that's all plastic, but you want texture to make it look like it was cast, like out of an armory where they're casting big plates for tanks and stuff. So I went through and did it. There's a YouTube video up on our YouTube channel about how to get all of this cast steel look. And then, we've still got like sheet metal look too. Some smooth metal sheet metal plates. And then all the cast stuff is that sand cast texture on there. So we've done that. But this is the Maschinen Krieger combat suit that Tank Girl, we're doing a couple of homage dioramas to Tank Girl. And instead of a tank, she has a Maschinen Krieger suit. And we're going to have her sitting in the standing on the seat of the cockpit. I've already altered this model so that it fits.
Pollute my britches with delight.
So that's going to be fun. Click, click. Thank
click.
you so much. So that's going to be pretty good. Go get him, Jen. Myrtle, whatever, dude. Stop. Like, literally, she... See this? This is going to get out of hand, and it's going to get out of hand quick. Right?
Hi.
I think we fall back and nuke her from orbit. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. What are you working on?
I'm working on, well, I have to finish physics eyebrows because he does not have eyebrows. So I'm going to paint his eyebrows and then he'll be done. And then we're going to work on Inigo's skin, finish that, his hair, his whole
I'll
look.
just throw back my legs
Valerian,
and pollute my
12 freaking
That's
months.
what's going on today.
Thank you so much.
My camera is attached to my desk, so it moves a little bit. So we'll probably not have my camera on.
It's not too bad. I mean, it's been like that forever. So, yeah, it's been like that forever.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
It's nothing new.
I didn't realize that.
No, it's
I mean, I guess I did realize that, but
it's nothing new. We got to get an armature mount for her so that her, camera doesn't move when she moves the desk. Like mine looks like the camera moves, but it's only because the desk is moving and the camera's staying still. So, it's, just the way it goes.
okay.
So there's no way.
I don't want to make everyone do
We're making art. So it's going to move. They get seasick. She could grab a drink with ice and put her finger in there and get it nice and cold. Just saying. So Myrtle, you and I, we have up to now had a history of friendship. And I feel like that's dashing against the rocks and being scattered to the four winds right this minute. I don't think.
I wouldn't even have to use my own saliva. It's
I don't think
humid enough that
she needs any help.
the glass is
I don't
sweaty,
think
and look how cold.
I don't
it's
think.
cold.
I don't think she needs any help. So let's all just take a quiet moment and contemplate how good life will be without you helping secure my demise at the end of a wet willy. Thank you for that. I'm gonna turn my mic down a little bit. I feel like I am mucho louder than you. Do you like that? Is that better? Feel like that might be better? Okay. I have a loud voice anyway, so
Yeah.
it's just the way that goes.
It was how many what willies were owed at one time, but those are expired.
She doesn't let us see. Like I told you guys,
I did all those.
It takes a lot. It takes. Oh, those. You mean like you owe me? No, you're.
Yeah,
clear.
no, those. That was
You
from
haven't
a long,
had.
long time ago.
You haven't had anywhere near all of yours. Though.
Yes, I have.
No. There was a day where you were owed like
They
6.
expire. There's an expiration date on
exactly.
those.
She's defined this expiration
You
date
gotta-
for Willy. There's
if
a
it's
Willy
not-
expiration
if it's not
date
within
now.
that said stream, then it's.
Okay, no, wait. You weren't even there, so it can't be.
Well, then they don't count. If I'm not there, then they don't.
That's not how.
No, that's how it is. That's how it is.
I feel like that's not how it is. I feel like I need you guys on my side for once and tell her that's not how it is. Tell her that's not how that is. Are the hash marks on Jen's painting page? No,
Yes,
shush.
that's what
shush.
we were
Shush.
just talking about.
Shush. I just went over this, Maui. Come on. Mr. Simon, we don't need no help. Here. Just no help. Here. You don't see any expiration date in the command for either will. Yes! Yeah, I'll take that because she never falls behind with me. Like, she always gets all of her due with me.
Because I keep track of how
But
many
she's
are owed.
gone on Wednesdays, and sometimes new
But see, I
subscriber
just don't
numbers
think
go up on
that if I'm
Wednesdays when you're not
there,
here.
I don't think that's fair because you could totally be making it all up.
That number never changes. It used to be that I go like this, but now the camera's backwards, so I got to go like this. So, actually, the camera's right now. But this number isn't ever manipulated until it hits 20, and then I reset it to 0.
We'll see.
She is doing that girl thing where she's acting all helpless, needs a defender. I see. You see what's happening here, right? Jen's willies are different than my willies. Mine are like milk, and hers are like almond milk. Let's have a quiet moment of awkwardness for JP Gray's statement there.
I'm processing that. On some level, it makes sense.
I owe her like 13. I'm just saying. Like, I should be able to dump the Gatorade tub on Jen at this point.
No.
Like, at the end of the game.
Almond milk does go bad, though, JP. That's a myth. it doesn't have preservatives.
I
Once
think
you
she's
open
lying.
Once you open it, it can get bacteria if you don't drink it within like 10 days.
I feel like she's lying to me because mine's always been good weeks after the fact. All right, let's get to some painting.
It's a risk.
Let's get to some
you
painting,
take
and
if
you
you
keep your
wanna.
hands off me.
I'm not touching you. I don't have any reason to.
I'm not afraid to cry out for assistance.
I know.
The
I
neighbors
think
are
that
going to
your
know.
cries will not be
The
heard.
neighbors, they really aren't, but whatever.
They
Whatever.
don't care about us.
The neighbors don't care. They're like, they're at it again over there. What the hell with those two? Always causing a ruckus. The boy that cried wolf.
I did not write down the colors for Physics hair because I was at the store painting, but I'm pretty sure that it was cam black brown and chocolate brown. Oh, you gave me flat earth, not chocolate brown.
Oh. Well, then look in your box, because I don't see it. And all my paints are out of place now anyway after the move, so yeah, it's fend for yourself day. I feel like it's probably in that box. The cardboard
I
box.
took
that
all
was over
those
there.
out.
Oh, you did? So it's in there
It's
someplace.
this one, right?
Ta-da!
Yeah.
That's a word, I think. Maybe not. All right, so I'm going to start airbrushing skin. We did, on this model, I've gone through and done some alterations. Like I said, it's a pilot model, like a sexy pilot model thing. But anyway, it's suitably skinny for Tank Girl. I went in and modeled some Band-Aids. So we've got a good amount of Band-Aids, one on her thigh, one on her arm, one across the bridge of her nose like Tank Girl does. Modeled a cigar, did a little bit of sculpting on the lip to make it look like she's actually sucking on the cigar there. So that's pretty good. So we got Tank Girl with a cigar. And then I had to change the clothes a little bit. I had to, this sleeve used to drape down onto the ground on the side. So I had to cut it, resculpt it so that the sleeve lays across because it sits across the arm or the bolster, I guess, the seat bolster there. It lays across this thing over here. So I had to change some of that because she's standing up in the seat right there. So I've already done all that and got her ready. Primed. Had to resculpt some of the hair right up across the top of the head here because the face part went together there. Like you just kind of squidged the head together in two pieces. So I had to do that. Sculpt some hair. I think we're pretty good though. It was a pretty good model. It's just a resin, simple resin cast here, and it's like 75 millimeter. I forget what the scale is on this. 1/26th. I think it's 1/26th scale is this size model. It's pretty big. It's like 75 millimeter or something. So we're going to get to going with some flesh tones, and I think I'm going to do some of what we played around with when we were doing the Dragon Rider, or the Dino Rider, right? Where we did like using the AK, we did like the blackish red or reddish black color that we got here. We'll do some of that. We're gonna use some of the shadow flesh. I think we're probably gonna use the dark shadow flesh first.
Throw back my legs and pollute my breeches with delight.
What? Enigma! 7 months. What's happening, man?
Thanks, Enigma.
Muy apreciado. So yeah, we're gonna start with dark shadow flesh from AK. And oh my God, do I have some cool stuff to show you guys?
What?
Oh, I got some cool stuff to show. I might want to show them. Should I show them now?
Well, huzzah!
We got some really cool
I'll just
artwork.
throw back my legs and pollute my breeches with delight.
I'm gonna show you JP Gray. What?
JP Gray.
What?
Oh,
That's Grins. Grins gifting JP Gray a sub. Grins, my hero. Javasuko, like I said, this is just a Japanese garage kit. So, and by that, you can find them and they're sold under the Machine and Krieger lineup, but it's a Japanese garage kit. The makers of it are a small company that makes kind of accessory stuff for Machine and Krieger and sci-fi kits in mostly, I think, in like 1/26 scale and maybe some 1/35 scale size stuff too. And I don't remember what it's called. Girl in Flight Suit, I think, is literally what it's called, right? So it just, I was looking for a female model that I could use to convert into a Tank Girl model.
Donate $5 to the cause and maybe it'll make you feel better.
Woohoo! That's
See?
a one wet Willy.
See, I want to say thanks. There's part
I'll
of
say
me,
thanks, Enigma.
Rob, there's part of me that wants to say thanks, you're the greatest. But now the proximity of her to me makes that a little bit of a bad deal. Because, like, now she can get me when I'm not. Because I'm here and I literally can't see her. Whereas I used to be able to see her out of the corners of my eyes because she was so close. Now, I can't see her. This is going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And it's like I'm deaf in my left ear, so now I can't even hear her coming.
You made this choice.
I did. It's my fault. I set all this up. So, there you go. That's how that works. Thank you, Rob. We're testing out the deviousness of the new Willy system. You bastages.
$20 donation received from Enigma_hobbies.
Enigma_.
Team Gen for life.
What?
Wet Willy Inc.
What? What Willy Inc. It's Wet Willy Inc. That's the new company he started with you.
Nice.
It's Enigma and Gentastics Wet Willy Incorporated. Yeah, right. I need to get the glasses with a rear view that bicyclists wear. I'll just have a crash helmet with the rear view mirror so I can always see her. I feel like that's a plan because I don't feel safe here. This is no longer a safe space for me. I feel very vulnerable and scared. Hold me.
I'm too focused on my eyebrows right now.
The man stare camera's way off now. Hold me. Anyway. All right, so I want to show you guys some pictures real quick before I get going. Let me see if I can make this happen here. Let's see. Can I do
Wear
this?
a helmet all the time to keep your ears safe.
I need to. I need to. It's a thing. Gosh darn it. I mean, gosh darn it.
What are you trying to do?
Google is always just a real royal pain in the patukas.
Signed out. Syncing is paused.
Sign in again. I don't want to do this one. I want to do this one. Thank you. Thank you. I got to log into our stuffs. I got to log into the company chat to see the pics. Don't you see?
Oh.
Right? Like I need to get these pics to
Are
show
these the ones for the
to show the fine folks what's a happening. Oh my God, do we have some cool stuff? Like, are you guys ready for? I mean, I hope that you're as jazzed about what you're about to see because I've got some cool freaking stuff to show you. As you know, or as you may not know, we run a hobby store where we manufacture our own line of hobby supplies. Previously under the moniker of Slow Fuse Gaming, a la the show. We have recently updated that and we are now called Monument. And all of the supplies are the same. Quality is only getting better. We have our racks and all that stuff, so yada yada. I won't bog you down with it. Just go check out slowfusegaming.com or monumenthobbies.com. They both go to the same place. And check it out. Right? So number one, give us a chance to be your hobby supplier because all the brushes that you see us using when we're painting and pretty soon all the paints that you'll see us using are our own manufacture. But with that, we've got a new website coming out. Lots of big info coming with regards to that launch later this month. The paints, we're hoping to have the paints on sale for Black Friday. For sale to you guys for Black Friday. That's our goal.
Small Business Saturday.
Right now it seems like that's a thing. So basically at Thanksgiving in the U.S. here, November 22nd-ish, is going to wind up being the date where they go live. But in tandem with that will be the new website, the new place where you buy everything, the new look for the new website is really exciting. I'm super stoked on it. We can't show you any of that. But we do have some new artwork that is being done by a third party that is spectacular with regards to all of the product stuff that we're doing. And let me see if I can just open the whip window. Will that work? Does this work? Oh. I mean, I just want you to see the glory that is like this picture. You can't even see all of it because it won't scroll. I just want you to notice how awesome this is. Right? Let me scoot this to where it does that, like that.
You're showing stuff in the background. Like I can see the chat behind you.
Oh, okay. I don't have a way to do anything about that. I don't think it's gonna matter.
Okay.
Right.
Just make sure there's
So check this out.
Secrets in there.
Check this out. This is for the bomb wicks, the artillery brushes that we're doing. We've got this amazing artwork being done. That is a bunch of dwarves with a brush launcher. Look at this. All of our artillery. It's this will be the graphic that goes along with all the artillery brushes. Let me do this. Let me do this. Maybe I could just download these real quick.
That'd probably be better.
Let's just do that real quick. Let me do this. Let's go like that. Can I download? Yeah, download. That. Right. And then download this one.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's so good. It's so
Like that
good.
one.
The paint one is so good. And then the other paint one is so... This was just really, really rough, but I don't care. I'm going to show them anyway. Some of these are really rough.
those
They're
are
not
like
anywhere
to
near
you.
complete. The
That's why
dwarf
I
one is... The
didn't
dwarf
see
one's
it.
pretty much done. The one we just showed you is pretty much done. Freaking awesome, right? Like, freaking awesome. That artwork. So good. This is the kind of quality we got going on here. It's absolutely amazing. So let's close that. Let's get rid of that. Let's do this one. Right. And now how can I show them this, though, is the question. Let's see, do I have anything like that? I don't think so. Hang on. Hold, please. Let me get all this. Let me add a window capture. This will be pics. Pics. Let's go to dink dink dink. Let's go to Microsoft Photos.
Model said awesome. Flarian said looks like war.
Microsoft Photos exe. I feel like that's right. Is that not right? I feel like that should have been it. Is that not it? Not work?
Model wants to know who the artist is.
Doesn't seem to work. Hang on.
If we're allowed to tell who the artist is yet, are we?
No.
Not allowed to tell yet.
Nope. Can't do it. Soon. 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 So I don't understand. Like, why is this not giving us the picture? Well, screw it. I'll just show them the other way. Because I want them to see. It's too good not to show.
I don't think it said in the text in the background.
What's that? No.
Well, Ray said it said in the text we weren't supposed to see in the background who the
No, it
artist
didn't.
was.
No, it didn't.
I didn't think it did either.
It did not. It did not. Keep wishing. It
Just
doesn't.
Make sure that there's nothing in those words that
It doesn't. It's
need to
fine.
be divulged.
Now that you've brought it to their attention and they're all looking at it.
Sorry.
Jeez, thanks. This is one for the paints. This one's really, really rough, but this has
I
an
like that
alchemist and all of the colors of paint coming up out of the alchemy deal there. I like that one a lot. The other paint one is spectacular, though. This one is just too good. Again, this is just all
I
our
like
promo
that one.
art and stuff that we're doing. This is, again, for the paints
I love
with the
that one.
demons crawling out of the
That
paint, the
one's super
spilled paint
cool.
bottle. So freaking good.
No, Ray, I guess he's saying it doesn't really matter.
So
It's just gonna be
freaking good.
a matter of days, right, or weeks
It's so freaking good.
that it'll all be
So.
done.
Oh, I don't know. Sure.
Well, because Ray said we might want to edit the VOD so it doesn't show up again.
Meh, whatever. It doesn't matter. There's nothing there. You guys are reading too much into
I
it
know.
because she's making it seem like it's a bigger deal
Well,
than it is.
just
and it's
because
not.
it's like it's other stuff that
There's not there. There's nothing private there.
we good.
Yeah, right? Like, I am so stoked about the new art. It's so
They're
good.
all really cool.
So freaking good. So that'll be part of the site. You'll see all of that art in various locations on the site, defining like the various types of products and stuff like that. And we'll have it for the bags. There's some really cool art for the bags, stuff like that. So we're just trying to give a little bit more of a cool narrative to all of the products we do. So it's absolutely awesome. Blacklight drum paint thing. Yeah, right? Exactly right. The alchemy one is my favorite paint. I mean, the paint is just spectacular. But the spilled paint bottle with the demons coming up out of the spill is really cool too. And these are all the artist's ideas, so it's just fantastic, you know. Like, just giving an artist names and getting this kind of quality stuff out of it that's just great. That's like, yes, please.
Yes.
I dig it. All right, so back to painting. We're going to put some dark shadow flesh from AK in the pot. Get some flow improver. World's Best Brush V2. And what I want to do is, much like with a pre-highlight, except upside down. If you weren't here when we went through me priming and pre-highlighting and doing all of the first layers of colors on the Dino Writer, this is exactly the way that we did that. Okay, so whereas with a pre-highlight, you're basically aiming the brush down from the light source. So the light source on her is right there, facing that direction, just off her right shoulder and a little bit behind, right? So you see how the top of her head, very, very bright, shoulder, very, very bright, and then we get darker as we go down, but we still have brightness showing up on the hip, right? A little bit on the thigh. This thigh over here that faces that direction, again, gets some brightness on the inside of the arm there, elbow here, so on and so forth. The folds of the clothes here. Obviously, the end of the cigar is bright all the way around. And then away from our light source, we still have some modulation of color and value across here, just not near as drastic, right? You'll notice how we go from very bright over on her right side. And then as we course around, we just get a little bit darker under the thighs, no hard lines anywhere, darker under the midsection and the rib cage there. And so you're basically always shooting from the top. When we want to do shadows, we're going to reverse that, right? So now I'm going to be shooting from the bottom, and I'm not picking one direction because shadows aren't a source, right? They're just where the light isn't. So what I want to make sure I'm doing is only getting these areas where there's none of that pre-highlight hitting, right? And I'm really just focused on her skin. So like right here on this knee, I want to bring that up a little bit into the pre-highlight areas.
World Leaders wants to know, or said it's saving up to buy the entire set of paints when they come out. Any ideas to the ballpark cost of the full set?
It'll be under $100 for the initial set, is our goal. I think we're sticking to that.
Enigma said my standard order has been placed. It is sad because my budget has a line in it now that says slow fuse supplies every month.
Ha! That's so awesome. I'm glad that we have supplies worth setting a budget for.
Maui Blood says that the cost is going to be 10,000 transferable handies.
Yes, or that.
And then Ray said, I swear every time I think I'm getting better at pre-highlight, you show me something like that and I die a little inside. No.
So, yeah, so the pre-highlight on her is it's a little bit, it's taken more time than what I would normally do, just because of, on stream. This takes a while. Plus it's iterative because I would go through and do a little bit of the highlight, and then I would go through and I did the pre-highlight once and then I had forgotten to put the band-aids on, so then I went back and did the band-aid sculpts, so then I had to prime and pre-highlight again. Then I wanted to change her lip a little bit where she's got the cigar, so I had to sculpt that and then go back and pre-highlight and prime again, and then the hair and prime and pre-highlight again. So it's been 3 or 4 times with this, right? So I'm just aiming and going for all of my shadow locations, pushing a little bit of color up out of the shadows onto the skin, right? You'll see, like on that knee, on the knuckles there. Okay. And I'm basically just using that pre-highlight. Anywhere where I have these dark grays laid in is where I'm aiming, right? So I'm going to get the thigh on the back here, right above the knee, blend that out into the pre-highlight areas a little bit. So,
Shidohari wants to know when the 64 dropper bottle racks are going to be in.
When what?
64 dropper bottle racks are going to be in.
I don't really know right now. They're being cut. I'm supposed to see them shipped within a week, and then that usually means within 2 weeks we'll see them. So I would say, all things being good, that we should see them within the end of the month, before the end of the month. We'll see. That's my hope. Don't tell me. Can't get a bottle open?
Flarian said, how many paints will be in the paint set, and can you repeat the price?
We don't know the specific price yet. We haven't set that. There are 29 initial colors. And you get 3 empty mixing bottles in there too, so it's a total of 32 bottles, but only 29 colors.
No new hobby bags right now.
We're working on all of it though, guys.
Yeah,
So.
it'll all be coming, but we're not quite there yet. Oh, your hat.
Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot. With this new camera setup, I've got to make sure that I bring the model to me and not lean over the model. Sorry, guys. All right. So again, just making sure I'm punching color down into the recesses here.
We won't run out, Shidohari.
Of what?
The racks when they come in.
No. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. You don't got to worry.
We don't have any, no, we're not doing any special white. Yeah, we got the hat thing, we know. No special white. We're going to, the white in our paint will be better. So No more special white. Hobo white's not a thing.
Yeah, special white. We stopped making it about a month ago in lieu of the new paints. The new paints will have, they're actually a tad better than my blending of special white, but it's based off of that. So same core concept on the whites. It's the white that I use for this, so you can see like the pre-highlight. All the whites that I've been using for the last, I don't know, few months has all been our white that's coming in the set. So you can see this white, how smooth it lays over the model for the pre-highlight, no speckling, right? Nothing, no texture that isn't on the model in this white. So I will put that up with anybody's white. I don't care what white you say you like. Our white will be as good, if not better than that. That's just our white with a little bit of flow improver, right? Butter smooth.
Jason didn't name it Hobo White.
All right.
Chuck Whiff and Different, we're hoping that paints will be ready to go for your post-Thanksgiving shopping.
Yeah, we've talked about it. Our goal is to release.
For those of you who are not in the U.S., that's going to be like November 20-ish, 22nd.
I think it's the 22nd or 23rd, something like that. Yeah.
Enigma said you wrote Hobo White on the bottle when you sent it to Kenny.
Nope. Oh, yeah, when I sent it to Kenny, I did.
Oh.
Because he calls it that.
Well, huzzah, huzzah!
I just don't like
back
the
my
name.
legs and pollute my britches with
Seven,
delight.
seven. Thank you. Another ass-tastic model.
So again, just going for the shadows. Lower arm here on the inside.
Coming soon, Enigma.
Inside of that arm. Rib cage down low. A little bit along the spine here. Some of this color won't play through with the rest of our colors that we put on, but that's fine. We're just going through and adding where we think we want it. As we build up, things will change, balance will change, overall tone and value will amp up, go down as we play around with it. Right now we just want to kind of rough in areas where we think we're going to see some shadow. Right, so right along the spine here, down towards the waistline. Again, the kind of the undercut of the rib cage in through here.
Hates Enigma. Enigma said he needs some white paint. He can't use any other. What is he going to do without it?
What's that?
Enigma doesn't know what to do without white paint.
If you don't use it so fast. Yeah, it'll be back very soon. Very, 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 very soon. You will have our white paint. End of the month. Our target. Like Jen said, Small Business Saturday, Black Friday, that sale that happens right at the end of Thanksgiving, that's our target for release. And right now it looks pretty good. We should be bottling this next week. You should see demo sets this next week with the actual bottles here at the studio with us using them on stream. So we're stoked about that.
Valerian wants to know what size is the cup you have on your airbrush.
I don't know. Medium. There's a smaller one, and then I think there's a bigger one. This is the one in between. I can't use the super small ones, even though I don't put a lot of paint in my airbrush, only because I do the mixing in the airbrush. And so by taking it and running it in that super small cup, I feel like I slosh paint around a little much. So I try not to use the super small one. If there's a medium option, and then the big one's too big, like you can't see over it, it becomes a real pain in the butt. So I don't like that one much either. But really like this color. It's got a really good kind of underpinning of blood under the skin to it, kind of like our wasteland soil process. I'm just going through and throwing it where I need it. Get some shadow color in here. That hip. The belly line right along the underwear. I'm in close and I'm real thin, so I'm not real worried about overspray because I'm going to do all the clothing with brush anyway. We're just going to airbrush the skin on this model. We're not going to airbrush anything else. So overspray is not a concern of mine. Feather through the belly there. We use this too, even in areas where we know we're not going to have a ton of shadow, but where we're going to have flush skin, the chest generally, in between the breasts. Collarbone, neck, without making her too much of a redneck. Remember, this color isn't going to last. Like, we're not going to see a whole bunch of this color at the end of the day. It's just going to give us a little bit of bump with our flesh tones as we put them on. Right here in the underarm, the elbow inside.
Oh boy, this kid's gotta go.
What? Chuck Whiffendiffer, thank you so much for hanging with us.
Order's on the way, Chuck.
Well, huzzah, huzzah! I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my britches with
Thanks
delight.
for that sub, too. Have a good weekend.
Go ahead and get the underside of the cheeks. I feel like this color will get lost on the face because we're going to go pretty bright on the face. Tank Girl's pretty pale-skinned. In my mind's eye, at least, there's quite a few variations of the way people have visualized her in the comic books, so there's always an opportunity for tan and whatever you want. But go ahead and add a little bit of color on the brow line and the cheeks. Starts looking kind of zombie-ish when it's just the pre-highlight grays and whites and then a little bit of color on it. Starts to look a little funky. Going real close there. Just get underneath the chin line. A little bit at the pinch of the eyes. Maybe force a little bit right up in that area where the hair part is. Go ahead and get a little bit on the inside of the ear there. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Guys are going to have to scold me. The new camera setup is going to take some getting used to. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, we had to move the studio this last week due to some maintenance on the house. And so we're in a new room with a new camera setup. Not, the cameras are all the same, but the way they're set up is totally different. Jen and I are on opposite sides from one another that we used to be. I really like this setup, though.
Me too.
So I'm very, very happy with it. Glad we did it. But it is going to take some getting used to. So I apologize ahead of time for me sticking my big melon in the way of the camera from time to time there. I like the way this is playing with the white. So I am going to go ahead and bring it up out of the thigh across the top into that pre-highlight area a little bit because it's getting us a really, really nice pink like that. I'm not mad at that at all. Kind of the way it did up here, just kind of bring it out. I don't want to do it all over the place, but I want to be able to give a little bit of this color.
Maui said he streamed with Enigma last week.
Oh, nice.
So
I saw something about, I saw pictures of you guys in there, but Enigma wasn't on for me to go look.
He said staying in frame is rough. So much props to all you that deal with being on stream.
All day, every day. It's tough. Oh, for the days of just streaming video games. There was no worry about staying on frame. Go ahead and even these shadows out now that I got them placed where I want them. Make sure I don't have a whole lot of spotty color. I mean, flesh is in its own nature kind of spotty in its coloration, so I don't need it to be super ultra smooth, but I don't want there to be big spots where I get like a chunk of gray shining up out of the shadow, like right on the side of her thigh there. So I'll just come through and dust it from far back to cover that up. Bring it around a little bit on top of the thigh like that. Bingo. Done deal. That's already given us some really good color. Notice how I'm not applying a lot of this color in the areas where our pre-highlight was the brightest, because that saturation, right? Remember I told you, right side of her head, shoulder, hip down here, top of the thigh, top of this thigh, arm. There's like these stripes, although they're not hard stripes everywhere, where we get a little bit of that pre-highlight color not being interrupted with our shadow color. And you want to make sure that you try to maintain that so that when you lay your colors on, that white still has a pretty good effect on all of our skin tones as we layer up. That'll really make the pre-highlight do work for you. So you're starting to see, basically like building this from an anatomical model standpoint,
Well, huzzah,
right?
huzzah. I'll just
Dealing
throw
with
back
the
my
color of
legs and
blood under
pollute
the
my
skin
britches
first.
with delight.
Still one more name, thank you.
Thank you so much, Still One More Name. How the hell are you, my friend? Right, but building, you know, imagine those anatomical models where you see the muscle and part of them are clear and you can see some of the organs and stuff. That's kind of the way we're painting her, right? DBeast, what's going on? Thank you so much. That's kind of the way we're painting her. We're starting with kind of that blood, where you're going to see most of that blood and shadow color. I'm really digging this color paint. We haven't used this color before on stream. I've been kind of using them sparingly outside of stream on some models that I've been painting, testing for just, you know, flesh stylings, but I haven't done this kind of in-depth workup with it yet. So I'm anxious to see what we can make happen here. Keep it running, so I'm really digging that. Like a big bruise right now, but remember that most of this color won't stay on the model, so that's fine. So I'm pretty happy with this. I don't think we need a whole lot more. I'm going to go ahead and get under the chin a little bit more.
I am using the number 1, and this is the igniter. Mine still says it's a bomb wick, or a long wick rather.
Yeah, we got some. We still have some long wicks.
I'm
that we
using
use
the
here in
long
studio.
wicks, which I think is a testament to their durability.
Okay.
We've got brand new brushes, but the old ones still work.
And I'm digging that. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to wash that out. And I'm going to switch over to the reddish black, which is basically a purple. And we're going to get that into the shadows further. And the darkest shadows, we're going to throw that in. Now that we've got this kind of red that transitions to a pink going on. Give the brush a quick clean. Since all these colors are in the same kind of tonal range, I don't have to get it squeaky clean. I just need to get enough out that I'm not going to get a big burst of reddish pink bumping out. What you, babe? You got that? See? This is not safe. This, good God, that was, oh, now the fan's blowing on it. It's really wet, and I don't have, all I have is my airbrush paper towel. Oh, man. That was a good one, girl. Like, you got, like,
I think the trick is
all
just
over
to
the
be,
inside there. It's like all the way up in the
the trick is
crevice in
just
the
to be closer at the beginning.
Man.
I think that's it.
See what I have
This
to put
is a
up with?
win.
Enigma, that's all on you.
Thank you, Enigma.
That's all on you. You guys paying for my distress. Ugh. Got to be somebody I can report this
That's
to.
a good one.
That was a good one. Holy hell, that was a really good one. All right, so next I'm going to go into the reddish black. Again, it's more like a purple. We're going to use this to douse the shadows a little bit deeper. We might even follow this up with a little bit of signal blue. We'll see how we like it. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 drops in there. I'm not going to thin this out as much. I still am going to, you know, put flow improver in here, but I'm not going to float it the way I normally would. I'm just going to give enough to where we get a good spray.
Why don't you donate $5 to the cause and maybe it'll make you feel better.
Damn you! Enigma. Well, I thought we was friends. Wait a minute, we haven't been friends. You said Team Jen for life. And he said that like every day for like the past couple of years, it feels like. We haven't even known him for a couple of years. But, you know.
I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my britches with delight.
Enigma, Boneyard
Thank
Painting.
you.
15 freaking months. Thank you, my friend. Enigma, you're a hero. Only to people like Jen, but, you know,
donation
still
received
counts for
from
something, right?
_hobbies. Do it again, do it again. I missed
You
it that
missed
time.
it.
Ha 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 ha.
What? Is that why? Because he missed it?
He said he missed it.
Oh, man.
Shidohari said, I love your brushes. My control on my paint is much better now.
Nice. Good to hear.
Valerian, probably not. I don't know what you're talking about. Said, hope Jason forwarded my feedback to you as well.
Said
I
what?
don't know what that means. Valerian said that he hopes you forwarded feedback to me as well. I don't know what that means. Drax still has the black handle brushes.
You have to remind
Still
me.
going strong.
Did you send us info about the website and stuff? I tell her about all the good emails that we get, but I don't necessarily show her all the emails all the time. I'm really bad about that. So, but feel free to tell her again. Getting in real close, and I'm basically drawing lines now. Notice how I'm not spraying a whole lot. I'm going in very, very tight and getting these spots.
Maui Blood said, hey dude, it could be a delivered pineapple Smirnoff ice. Ugh. I don't know what that means either.
See, you can't ice me because I don't care.
Oh, the icing thing? Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me, right? Like, you cannot try to ice me, and I'm like, no. I don't drink that garbage. I don't have to play this game.
You're not the boss of me.
You are not the boss of me. That is the damn truth right there. I don't know why Kenny and those guys do that. I think it's funny, but like they tried to ice me at Adepticon, and I'm like, no. Let me show you how easy this is. No.
No, and walk away.
All right, get real focused in there in the cleavage.
Okay.
So.
Watch where you're putting your paint.
She doesn't mean anything to me, honey. She's just a doll.
Okay.
She doesn't hold a candle to you.
All right, good.
All right, so we get a little bit of that purple on the bottom side of the knee.
Drop shipped green apple Smirnoff ice from Enigma Sauce to Kenny during his stream with Jack of Clubs. Jason's in the no fun zone.
I want the scoop of her belly right there at the underwear line to get a little more shadow on it. Now we'll go back through and we'll do a lot more with the brush. So, you know, it's easy to get carried away right now and spend way too much time with the airbrush in some of these areas, but don't let that happen. You know, keep pushing around, get you some color set up so that when you lay your first layers of color on, of actual flesh, what we would call our actual flesh tones, right? When you put those on, that they get accented really well from these undercolors, this underpainting that we're doing right now. But you don't have to get too carried away because you will come back and tidy this up, add more shadow, change the color, hue shift in some places, do all that stuff later with just the brush. So again, like I said, don't get too worried about getting it all specifically correct here. If there's areas where you don't feel comfortable getting your airbrush, don't worry about it. That's pretty good.
No, I'm logged in. I'm just not chatting, so it might not show up automatically.
Yeah, I think you have to have said something while
Yeah.
I've been logged in most of the time.
It is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
All right. I think I'm going to go a little bit darker. I'm going to grab some of the signal blue. This color wasn't quite as dark as I would have liked. Not horrible.
Enigma said he had a pizza delivered to Kenny today and told him it was pineapple icy from the Maui Boys. So he was all paranoid for an hour. Then when it delivered, he was like, OMG, Enigma, I can't believe you did that. Then he saw the pizza and was relieved.
Ha!
The mental torture with it was the best.
There's pineapple.
Apparently.
Pineapple alcohol sounds like a real horrible thing.
Ray said, I'm asking because I always do. I'm working on some big display pieces myself. Is it okay if I download this VOD? This skin workup is amazing.
Sure. That's why we do this stuff. Go for it. We don't keep anything tight to the vest.
No. A rodent of unusual size? No. But I do have, I can show you which
What do we want to do? I got to figure out, do I want to do blue or do I want... I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go dark purple. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to take some real dark purple or this, whatever this is. I'm going to use whatever this is. I don't know what this is because it doesn't have a label on it. It might be dark blue. Or it could be royal purple. Can't really tell. Do you have royal purple over there?
Maybe.
No, you have dark blue over there. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take royal purple.
I have
Drop of royal purple in there.
Buttercup, Wesley, Fezzik. Inigo is in progress.
And then I'm going to put a little bit of black.
Humperdinck.
If I can find black. Where's black? Black.
Vizzini.
I'm going to do black model air, so it's a little bit thinner.
Ruger, the six-finger guy.
I don't know him.
It's Count Ruger, Count Rugen.
What was he in the movie? Did we see him in the movie?
Yeah, he was Prince Humperdinck's like assistant, like his
Oh.
right-hand man
Oh, gotcha.
kind of thing. And these are from Impact Miniatures. They're really fun.
Same company that did the alien chibis that we did the diorama with.
His diorama, same thing.
Great stuff. Really great stuff. I want more black in there.
Year of Shorty said, your bomb books are amazing. I got 22 models to 3 colors minimum with them in 3 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you for the support. Glad you dig them.
Ray said it's your content and he'd feel bad if he didn't ask first.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, he is. He's the six-fingered man that killed Inigo's father. And I think his name is Count Rugen. Or Ruger. Rue something.
So basically just purple and black, which was about 50-50 given that the black was super thin. I put more drops of black than purple in here, but the purple is a game color and is pretty opaque. And the black was a model air and needed a little bit more to really get the effect. All right, so now we're going to... This is more the color I was looking for. Now we'll get in here and really start just focusing in on the darkest of shadow areas with this purple. Right, so right there underneath the knee. Get
Churchford, what's the other miniature from?
what's that?
Where's your miniature from?
It is a garage miniature from Japan that is made for a sci-fi line called Maschinen Krieger by a third-party company. It's not like Hasegawa or any of the other manufacturers that do the Maschinen Krieger stuff. I don't think they do. They just make like extra bits. You know, think of it in terms of like what the 40K world has with companies like Artel and you know some of the others that just do their own take on the minis. Why am I not getting any paint? Feel like brush, you're not doing me right. I can keep my head out of the frame for you guys. There we go. That's more like it. All right, so we get that nice purple glow. I got a little bit on the rib cage here. I'm going to push a little bit more right under the breast line here if I can. And again, I can go darker, and I can push it pretty aggressively up underneath the breast line and the knee because our skin tones that we're going to add on are going to be what really give us the total flesh color. So I'm going to get in real close. I'm going to do a line right underneath the half moon of her belly down here by the underwear. I feel like maybe I should have thinned this more. Okay. Right along the top of the underwear there. Cleavage. Deepen the cleavage there. A little bit in the pinch of the underarms here. We don't need a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it in. This is probably the kind of stuff that is going to have more of an effect when we come back and do it with the brush, because it's too small of an area to hope that we can keep it like this with the airbrush, but we'll go ahead and give it a shot anyway. Just basically painting that line of the underarm pinch with the purple there to darken it up. You can see how now we're starting to get the kind of shadow contrast that I really want. Again, up underneath the chin. Yeah, I'm literally drawing paint after every pull. I'm just going to get right up along the bottom of the chin. That.
So one more name said, sorry dude, with a cigar in her mouth looks like a big fatty boom batty blunt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was a big pot smoker. I am not. But Tank Girl, known for it, they wore the 13 patches all over the damn place. Huh. All right, so again, just going in underneath the ear, underneath the chin. Not offloading a lot of paint, but enough to give it that purple shadow so that the rest of the flesh, because we're going to paint all of these areas with our flesh tones. And I want to get back here, get the hairline on the back of the neck if I can. There. Put down the back of the neck there. I can get underneath the pinch of the underarm on the back side of the breast kind of area here. In real close, feathering, blam, a little much. Like that. Good God, you can see the needle getting gummed up with that purple almost instantaneous. I don't want to thin it down though. I'm really liking the opacity. It's just this old game color. My game color is like literally like 12 years old. So.
She does look like she has a pretty wicked sunburn right now.
A little bit on that rib cage. I'm not going to do cheeks with the purple. It's a little dark for the face. We'll get butt crack. Needle, please. And of course, that's what it does. Of course it does. I'm just going to have to cover that where I did my finger swipe with a little bit more darkness than I really wanted to and power through on the thigh there. Otherwise, I'm really stuck with that smear of paint that I caused. So I'll just feather this out on the side. This purple's being a bitch. I shouldn't. This is one of those where I should not be forcing it right now, but I am anyway because I don't want to clean the airbrush right now. That inside of the long part. Oh, sorry, my hat again. God, I can't do this. I wonder what we can do. I really like the camera angle though, so I'm just gonna have to learn. Yeah. Guys, you're just gonna have to bear with me. Like I said before, I'm sorry if I keep crowding the camera a little bit. It's in a new spot, but I really like this angle. So I'm gonna try to keep it working. I just need to get good at it, so bear with me. It's about learning for me to bring the model to my face as opposed to sticking my face in front of the model like I normally do. But I don't know, what do you guys think? The camera angle that I've got it set at, now you guys are seeing basically what I see as I paint. Because other than, it's literally maybe 3 degrees off from exactly the angle of my eyes. But of course, by doing this, it means that I've got to get better at bringing the model to my eyes, because any kind of movement from my head puts me right in line of the camera. So
Colette said, I like seeing the back of your head.
oh, great. I feel like that's not a safe space comment. Wow. It's just this color. It's having its way with me. There we go.
Yeah, Maui, I think it's a really good angle too. I think it works really well.
I like it a lot better
I think this whole setup is just
than the old one. Like I said, it's just going to take me getting used to the way the camera and my interference occur. So, and again, I'm going right underneath her left clavicle over on our right. Get this triangle right as it's made into the bra strap right up in here. Like so. Notice how if I get that angle right, you guys are seeing exactly what I'm seeing. So as I'm picking my shadows, you're seeing why I'm picking my shadows in those locations. Okay. And remember, we haven't even really done any skin color yet, right? Our goal is to move towards real, flesh tones, but we're underpainting right now. Pinning these colors down with what we want to see as our shadow influencers, blood under the skin. A lot of times we'll do this late in the sculpt or late in the paint, so to speak. But right now, we're focused on getting these shadows and these base colors in there kind of earlier. Right, I want to get some of the inner thigh here. This is going to be tough. I need to make sure my needle's super clean. This arm, the way her body is pointing, makes it really difficult for me to get towards the crotch and inner thigh, right in that crevice. Works pretty good. I actually got done there pretty good. Right, we just want to get that purple in there as a shadow right in that crotch, inner thigh region, but not overtake all that pink. So I got to be very careful. And I don't want to make it just look like a purple splotch down there. So we got a little bit of feathering going on. That works pretty well. Feather that out a little bit more. At this stage, everything should look like bruising is the key, right? So if you want to have a way to kind of cheat in your head to say, okay, is what I'm doing working right? Well, does it look like a bruise? Because if it looks like a bruise, chances are you're doing all right. That inner thigh right at the crotch. Right. Dig it. I want to get the inside of this arm. Kind of radiating out of the elbow and down the back of the arm like that. This side is towards the light, so we don't want to get the inside of this arm, right? Inside of this one, because remember our light source comes from right here where you see all this brightness. So shadow here, shadow over here. So I need to get some more purple on this side of her arm. Feather it as it goes up over across the top of the shoulder like that. There's our shadows on this side. I can push these a little bit further on the back of the thigh. Digging it, looking pretty good. I'm I'm liking it. These colors are working out really, really well. Starting to get, I mean, right now, that's a very realistic skin tone. It just, the purples kind of radiate a little bit. It makes it seem a little alien. But you can start to see how the shadows are falling and the highlights, and that's looking like skin. Even though technically, we haven't thrown any true skin colors on her yet, right? It's looking good. We're picking up the undulations of the muscles on her back as it comes into her hips. So we're keeping that shadow in there. What looked kind of splotchy when we first started, as I tighten it up with the shadows, now you're seeing how the musculature is giving us the highlights that we want. All right. Digging it. All right, so now we're going to start in with some real skin tones.
Definitely a doctor, JP.
What's that?
JP said, my skin is turning yellow. Should I add a different color or go to a doctor?
Your skin is yellow, JP?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Doctor.
that's a liver thing. That's influenced by your guts doing their jobs not the way you're paying them to.
I hope he's just being funny.
Stop paying your liver in alcohol, I think is the thing. Want to get the inside of this scoop of her hip right here with just a little bit of shadow. I'm getting in really close. And once again, Mr. Needle hates me. There we go. Right
Dollar bills, y'all.
I like that. JS Twitch, thank you so much. 300 freaking bucks.
Thank you.
Mucho appreciado. So I just get a little bit of purple in that scoop of her hip before it goes into her belly line there. Good shadows. Start and stop as the thickness of her waist, right? You get the scoop of the hip bone there. The highlight coming up across the hip here will then radiate a little bit of light in through that scoop of her belly there outside of this hip indentation, right? And then we get darkness underneath the rib cage, then a little bit of lighter where the rib cage bows out, right? We don't put shadow just in a straight line there. It kind of goes in this U shape here, right? Right underneath the breast line, then up into the underarm. So that's looking pretty good. I can dig it. Again, not caring about super pretty here. We're just trying to make sure that where we want shadow color, we got it. Because as we start layering in skin tones, right, it becomes tougher to push these colors in as we work. But I'm really happy with this right now. Bingo. Let's clear this out because this purple is going to give me a freaking aneurysm.
JS Twitch said your ability to airbrush those tiny little areas with no spattering is amazing.
Thanks. That's just practice. We talk about it a lot. We spent a couple weeks back, we talked a lot about getting in and doing very, very close in work. The thinness of the paint that you need, you know, how to make sure that you're still getting the smoothness of the paint laying down to where you're blending and smoothing out, right? And you can do real work with an airbrush. I mean, I know that sounds silly. Everybody knows you can do work with the airbrush, but you can do really, really fine detail stuff with an airbrush too. I'm not a particular fan of doing like end step details with the airbrush. I'm a big fan of the brushwork, but on models like this where we're really doing a knockdown job on it, like this whole diorama is going to be top notch. If we pull it off right. You know, the Maschinen Krieger suit that she's going in, we've done a lot of work already and all we have is base coats on it. We did the texturing for the cast iron look on a lot of the rounded parts. We started doing some of the sheet metal parts. We'll do a lot of hand stuff. This one's going to say Booga on the heart. We've got a kangaroo model that's going on this diorama to represent Booga. So we've done, even though we haven't got a lot of paint on this yet, we're already really focused on doing a very highly detailed model. So I'm spending a little bit more time on the airbrush steps than I normally would so that I can get this kind of work out of it. You can do all this same stuff with a brush, right? It's really just about locating your paint. I mean, that's all painting is, right? Is the right amount of paint in the right locations. And so here, it's just being able to take the airbrush and get that quick, easy blend. And then now we're going to drop some skin tones over the top of this, right? And if we go thin enough with our dark color of flesh, what would on the brush in a normal situation be my first color of paint is going to be this base flesh color, right? Kind of this darker tan brown. That's what we're going to paint next, okay? but we're going to run it so thin that you'll never really see this color anywhere if we do it right. What you'll see is a lighter version of this because the pre-highlight whites and stuff will show it through, and then you'll see a color of this influenced by all of our purples and our reds, because we're really going to do dirty water glazing with it. So let me clean this brush out, get rid of this god-awful purple. It's not god-awful, I just mixed it real thick. Didn't put enough flow improver in it. But that's the fight. Sometimes you don't know your mix until you see it on the model, and if the color you see on the model is exactly what you want, sometimes it's better to not upset the mix in the airbrush, because you thin it more, that color's going to separate out a little bit more, especially if you've got stuff like we did with purple and black mixed together. You thin it, at some point in time, black takes over, purple takes over, and the colors alter. And so when I sprayed on the model, even though I had to fight the airbrush a little bit there, it was the color and the opacity I was really liking. As it was hitting the model, it was doing the work I needed it to right away. So I didn't go back and add flow improver to it. I'm just stubborn and lazy that way.
JP was joking about the jaundice, just so you know. World Eaters said, would this kind of workup be appropriate on a 1/6 scale model?
Sure. Yeah, 1/6 is even bigger. So, what is 1/6, like 14 inches tall, I feel like? What is 14 times 6? 84, 7 feet? No, so it's a little long. It's like 11 or 12 inches tall, right? So, I mean, yeah, I feel like you'd work it. As large as you go, the more you want to be looking at these types of effects. This model here is like 75 millimeter, 80 millimeter, and, it's what did I say it is? 1/26th scale. So the bigger you go, the more all of these types of techniques are going to influence the final draft, if you will, of the model. And the less you're going to want to rely on just a triad of color, right? If I were to take a large model, and this one's still fairly small. I mean, let's be honest, right? A 75 mil, 105 mil tall model, you can do everything that we're doing here after the fact with a brush and just glaze into the shadows, glaze into the pinches of the skin where you want blood tones, and all of that. And you can get away with it just fine on a model of this scale, right? Because this is still just finger length. Right? So it's still got plenty of ability to take it easy and paint quick. The larger you go, right, the more those kind of nondescript regions of a model are going to hold more attention, because like the pinch of the elbow on a model like this starts to take shape, whereas if we pick, good gosh, here's the hard part after having moved the studio, is trying to find demo models, right? If we take a normal model from, like the GW size, it becomes, each individual detail becomes less focused and more just the whole like skin in general on this guy. I'm not worried about what the armpit looks like as much, maybe so on him right in here, but moreover, it's just the feel that the skin in general gives you. Whereas as the model gets bigger, now things like this section of the arm take focus. And so you're going to have to spend time there and really make it look the way you want. It's not just, yes, all of the skin together is going to make a dent and hold attention, but then people are going to start looking at, okay, what does the shadow between her breasts and the cleavage look like? The pinch of the underarm, the elbow is all very far forward, because that area alone is the size of like his head, So as details get larger, you got to focus more time and effort into them. And so techniques like what I'm showing you here become very, very relevant. And you'll start seeing that, because the next thing we're going to do is start painting with a very, very thin skin tone over the top to show you what this color was really meant to do. Because obviously I don't want her this pink. I don't want her this purple in the shadows. I want this to just influence the rest of our color. That's coming next.
JP Gray said, would you recommend an Iwata Micron for detail work, or should I just stop buying airbrushes?
Would I recommend a what?
Iwata Micron for detail work.
Yeah, you should probably just stop buying airbrushes. I feel like you've got the disease of thinking that you need an airbrush, a specific airbrush for everything, and it's not a problem. I feel like the issue is that if you have an airbrush for each size, like if you go down to a 0.1, and then you got a 0.2 and a 0.3 and a 0.4 and a 0.5 and a 0.6, yes, you cover the gamut of being able to do a lot of stuff. And if you were doing print work, paper, if you're doing, fine lining on like tanks and cars, like I know you're getting into auto painting, those can make a big difference because you're doing larger areas where you need a very fine line to pull for a long distance. So having the right tool becomes a bigger variable for you than when you're doing miniatures. Everything in miniature is tiny. You're never looking to pull a 6-inch line with your airbrush. So having a 0.1 micron or micro tool doesn't do you any good. It can help you dot eyes, but I feel like you can do the same same thing, and I've shown you, like we've painted eyes with my 0.3. I feel like if you spend your time getting better with the tools you have a 0.3 and a 0.5 in a perfect world, or whatever your brand does. Some manufacturers don't do 0.3, they do like 0.35 and then 0.2. So you pick something in that range, and then pick something that's a larger aperture for doing larger surfaces, priming, things like that. And I feel like with 2, that's what we run here. We have 2 sizes. We've got 0.3s, and then we got 0.5s. If you want to prime, you grab one of the 0.5s. If you're doing a big tank and you want to cover it real quick, you grab a 0.5. If you want to do anything else, you grab one of the other brushes that's a 0.3. And with the 0.3, if you get really good and focused on the quality of your airbrush control, cleaning, maintenance, and all of that, you'll be able to do just about anything with that airbrush, assuming that it's not a piece of junk to begin with. Which I know your airbrushes are great. You've got like Harder and Steenbeck and stuff. So just focus on continuing to learn the tools that you have and focus on getting that fine detail with them. But like I said, you know, you're better off with a brush at that fine detail level in miniature, right? Whereas if you're doing cars and motorcycle tanks and things like that, you can get 90% of your work done with the airbrush, and then you're just going in and fine-tuning your lines with a brush. On the model, there's a lot of things to do with a brush that you don't get to do with the airbrush. Glazing, obviously the bringing into focus, like edge highlighting, you're never going to do that with an airbrush without going insane. So, you know, I feel like there's a point where every individual is going to pick how comfortable they are and how far they're willing to push the model airbrush-wise, and then switch over to the brush. And for some people, that's prime, right? Prime and pre-highlight and then brush everything. Great. For me, like, that's 90% of what we do. But then sometimes we push it further and we start doing stuff like this. Great, right? We're going to do 90% airbrush, 10% brush on her skin, if all goes well. That's my plan, right? But it just depends on the model, right? And don't feel bad if what you do is you pick up your airbrush and you prime and pre-highlight and then paint everything with a brush. That's fantastic, right? There's no difference. It's just picking and choosing your battles and what you want a particular model to look like. You've probably seen there's a lot of people that will paint a model like 90% with an airbrush, and at the end of the day it looks kind of out of focus, because what an airbrush does great is do all of its blending, right? Because of the atomization of the paint, it blends instantly if you feather it nicely. But if you feather everything on a model, it looks out of focus. It looks like somebody took the focus adjustment on the camera and took it just a half a degree out of focus. You can still tell all the parts and pieces, but none of them exist very well on their own. So you need that contrast, and for us, most of the time not most of the time. For us, it's done by brush, right? I'm not saying that there isn't some crazy person out there that does 100% of their painting with airbrush and makes it look spectacular. There's always one. But for the most part, you're going to have the brush that fine-tunes all of your airbrush work, no matter how good you are with the airbrush. So that's the long-winded.
He said, yeah, I like my 0.15 H and S, but this teacher I have keeps pushing for the Iwata custom micron, so I wanted to ask your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like, what are they teaching you and what are you doing? Are you doing it for auto detail work and custom graphics? Then yeah, like I said, it makes sense, because the smaller aperture will make it easier for you to do larger distances with very fine control. You know, because when I'm doing something on a motorcycle tank, if I'm using the airbrush, I'm doing a big area. Right? It may be, the whole back of a peanut tank, and it's, 8 inches wide and 14 inches long, and there may be a point where I have to do a big swoosh that's one line width, that's 14 inches long. And I don't, I want that control, so buying a small brush for that makes perfect sense. I'm telling you that in the world of miniatures, I don't see a need for that brush, because what you'll be using it for most of the time is not the up-close detail work that you'll see that aperture size work for, which is like what I do. And you see how fine of a line I can get just getting in close and controlling my paint consistency. I don't see what you'd use it for on models. But that's just me, because I don't use them, right? I could be taught that I'm all wrong, or that there's something you can do with it that's really cool and it makes sense to have it. I'm not saying that your instructor is wrong. I'm just saying that it depends on what they're teaching you to use the tool for as to whether or not you need it. All right, so I'm going to create a glaze. I'm floating this brown. Notice I put 2 drops of the flesh color in there, and then I loaded to the bottom of the cup with the flow improver. So this is going to be super, super thin, so that we can basically just layer as we need. I want it to be almost to that wash/glaze consistency, so that as it comes out of the brush, I have to work really hard to get opacity with this color.
Valerian said, I just checked, and my Evolution Silverline Solo is a 0.2. I was going to order another cheap, in quotation marks, 0.5 airbrush for priming.
Sure, yeah, good idea.
Would you recommend to change the Silverline to a 0.3?
No, whatever you're comfortable with. If you're not using it for priming, then a 0.2 and a 0.3 can work really well. One of our, we do have a Grex here that has a 0.2 needle in it. I find that I don't use it for anything different than what I use our 0.3s for, is why I say that. So I don't know that I would recommend that you have to have one. But I know a bunch of people that paint with a 0.2 like it's a 0.3 and vice versa. But I don't think you need both. All right, so now I'm going to go in with our really, really thin flesh tone here. And I'm just going to go over the whole model, right? I'm going to start sinking all of our areas with this flesh tone. I say sinking. We're not really being dramatic with the paint right now because it's super thin. So at first, you're not even really going to see a lot of color taking place, all right? There we will. On the highlight side, you do, right? Now you start seeing that flesh tone hit as it goes on to the waist, right where we don't have any of the reds and the purples. You'll see it have a very dramatic effect. Like right up here across the shoulders, you'll start seeing this skin tone pop really, really fast. And that's what we want. That pre-highlight doing its work. And again, the first pass is going to be like a big bruise, because now we've got skin tone layered in over those reds. But notice how the pinks and the purples aren't going away, right? My paint is virtually non-opaque. Let's see. So let's paint this. Here we have a little bit of that purple. Now let's put that flesh tone over it, right? And see how long it takes for the purple to go away. See how much paint I'm laying down, and I can still see my purple underneath it, but I've got a lot of my flesh tone going on there. And that's what you want. So that you can be in control, again, of how many layers it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. That's not what I meant to say, but that works in concept, right? Rather than just building up one opaque layer, now I can control when and how far to push the reds and the purples so that my skin becomes lively, and I can stop it at any spot along that. If I'm doing zombies, this works really well. I can spray just a very thin layer and let most of the red and the purple show through as big bruises, and that works really good. Then glaze it with greens and all sorts of crazy stuff. With her, we want her to look alive, but it's Tank Girl. She can have bruises too. So we're going to play with it until we get what we like.
Mythic Prop said, a bit of an odd question. I've done the base coats of this D&D T-Rex mini and have no idea what the best wash would be over a khaki that blends into a light olive drab color. Any suggestions?
A khaki that blends into a light olive drab color. So your olive drab, is it more brown? A lot of different olive drabs are different colors. Like the olive drab that I'm used to is like U.S. olive drab from World War II, and it's less green, more brown. And then moving into a khaki from it is you know, I would just be using like the straight Model Air khaki I like, or hemp. Hemp is a really good color, but again, it depends on what your OD looks like. Is it OD green, or is it like just olive drab? Let me see if I can find what I'm talking about here. Do I have them? English uniform is more brown. Field gray is kind of it. Where do we have it?
Oh, Valerian, I'll check after the stream.
So see, U.S. olive drab is more of a like a dark ochre green almost, and brown. So I would move to hemp, right? And instead of a khaki, I like this Model Air hemp color, is really good. And then from there, you know, you can kind of just add ivory to this to get it to lighten up how you want, or buff works really good as a highlight. This is model color buff. Sorry, let me get one that has a label. I forget we've got like the old one over there that's kind of crazy looking. Model color buff is another one of our favorite colors, along with ivory. You can either add ivory to the hemp from model color and highlight as you go, or grab buff, if I can find it. Where's it? Buff. Is that it? No, that's desert yellow. Do you have buff over there?
Maybe.
It's kind of a light palish yellowy thing. And that's ivory.
Then no.
Take that back. Oh well. I don't know where buff went. I've moved everything and nothing looks like it's in there. Oh, look at this. Is that it? Buff. Yeah, buff. Bang. Buff. And buff brings a little bit of yellow back into it, so you can highlight these, mix it together, depending on what you want. That or ivory. That's my solution. There are khakis out there. You know, Model Color has a khaki. Model Air has a khaki. I feel like a lot of the khakis tend to go into too much of a beige right? Like this Banshee brown is intended to be a khaki, but it gets you into more of a kind of a, pale reddish brown almost. It's not bad, right? I would call this like a true khaki. I don't see any of my actual model color khakis laying around here. But I'm a big fan of hemp from Model Air. It's a great color. Cam beige, they call it. Camouflage beige, but it's called hemp. The U.S. name is hemp, and the Spanish name is camouflage beige in Model Air. And not a weird question at all. I hope that kind of helps. Let me know.
Let's see. Draken green from GW, and the khaki is exactly that from Vallejo game.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the Vallejo game khaki is pretty damn close to the hemp. It might be a little bit lighter. So you can always, like what Jen does a lot, we taught her early on, is if you've got two colors that you think you want to use together, but one takes a jump too bright from the other or too dark from the other, mix them. Do a 50-50 mix in between them, and you can get a great transition between. You can almost make any color work with any other color if you do that mix. Some of them you get mud, but for the most part you can.
I mix a lot.
Ray Long, what's happening? Zeb, you've got a new job. The shift work makes...
Don't do it.
Okay, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Jen said don't do it, so I stopped. Zeb, you bastage.
I've been reading you the ones that you need to see.
Again, just working in that flesh. And remember, this flesh color is the dark flesh. But see how we're not seeing that color anywhere on here? It's brighter everywhere. Because we're so thin that the colors underneath are influencing it right out of the gates. So our bright whites on our pre-highlight are influencing it, so we're getting a much more pale flesh. Then you'll see it transition over our reds and our purples, and it gets a little darker, but it'll never be this color because it'll be a mix of that and whatever else is underneath it all the time. So again, when you're picking what colors to airbrush thin this way, always go darker than the color you actually want to see on the model, because it'll get underpinned by all these other colors, and if you start too bright, you'll get like violently bright real quick, right? Get this thigh, keep working that flesh into that shadow color there. We get a nice smooth blend. A little too red on the thigh, so we'll keep building that up. But we want to coat everything. Shadows, underarm, right? Keep layering on the back. Every time we put another layer on, we will get closer to whatever color we're actually using. So you got to be careful. Right? If you layer too much, you can cover everything up and lose that pink and purple and blue and whatever shadow colors you've laid in. So again, you want to do quick layer passes, let it set up, and then come back and look at it again and see what you like and what you don't like. Right? Like I don't want to push too much up into this neckline and get rid of those shadows, even though those shadows right now are still too dark. I just know that I'm going to come back and keep layering in that neck by itself. I might not layer more on the shoulders. I might just focus on the neck until that shadow looks like I want it. Right? It's a little too deep of a shadow right now, considering that she doesn't have like a huge fro hairstyle. It's really close to her scalp, so that shadow shouldn't be that deep right at the neckline. So I'll just keep pushing this skin tone in, but I got to let it dry. Right? If I keep doing it right now, just wet paint on wet paint will just goop it up and you'll never really get the opacity you want. You're just moving wet paint around. But notice how down here now, we're starting to see that skin tone take place and we've lost some of the bruisiness. We're starting to just get that nice gentle shadow and flesh. We still look a little bruisy right here at the bottom of the rib cage, so we'll put a little bit more there. But we've got a nice smooth transition through the butt dimple here into now the purple, where we'll have to start building up to start sinking the purple back. Right? But the back is starting to look really, really good.
JP said the next course of study he's going to be taking is welding. It starts in August next year in Avondale.
Nice.
Which is in Arizona.
Oh.
Said, so I don't get this part though. I'll still be at a house all the time and be able to watch you on my TV.
There you go.
Valerian said, as long as I do not have your special white, is it okay to use white primer to pre-shade, or will the result be meh?
It's a little bit of a thicker paint, so where I say don't ever really thin your primers if when you get to the point that you're using it for a pre-highlight, thin it, and it's fine. As long as you like the control that it gives you, there's nothing wrong with that. For sure.
Zeb Zorander, I've not been around for ages. How you folks doing? Hey, Zeb.
Wait a minute. You just told a bad joke. What's happening? Good to see you.
Oh, that part wasn't a joke. Oh, yeah.
No, the previous joke that you told me to stop reading.
Yes.
Going in through the chest, layering up down the bicep, her right arm, into the hand. Again, don't want to push those shadows too far away. Right, but see, now our flesh tone is starting to take up. Look how good that looks.
Mm-hmm.
Right, now we're still getting way too much amplification on the reds and the purples, but you're starting to get a feel for how they're going to live together, right? Like the area in the elbow looks irritated because there's too much pink showing through. The shadows are still weird purple, alien skin kind of purple, right? But you're starting to get a feel for how all these colors are going to live together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and push some of this flesh tone in on her belly. So, can't forget about the face. This model's kind of funky because it's got a very Asian flair to it since it's a Japanese garage model. So it's kind of Asian tank girl. Her eyes are, the eye spacing and dimension is a little Asian, which is cool. I dig the model because it's going to throw it out like that. She doesn't have the long, skinny tank girl face, but it's very, very passable. I love this model. When I saw it, I was like, oh God, please be in stock. That would be so perfect. And it wasn't, of course, in stock the first time I saw it. I had to contact them, tell them what I was doing, and then they were like, we'll make you one. I haven't spoken to them since, but I know they were excited about seeing the model.
Oh, that's awesome.
Luca Zampriola is excited about seeing it too. He gave us the big Brigo model from Calamity, and he loves Tank Girl. So he's been asking me, when are we going to see this? And I'm like excited to be able to get some progress on her. Which is also why we're going the extra mile on her. So again, sorry, am I getting my head in the way? I don't know.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's mine. I got to learn to be better. It's going to be tough. I'm so used to putting my head to the model so that I can keep my hand on the desktop rather than bringing the model to my face. So I just got to get better at it.
Do you need stronger glasses?
No, I don't need. It's not about stronger glasses. It's always, even if when I
Just
wasn't
have
wearing
it.
glasses, I did the same thing when I was doing fine details.
Yeah.
You get in close just so you can feel like you're, I don't know, one with the model or something. I don't know, some sort of weird Buddha thing going on when you're painting like that. Again, making sure that I'm getting flesh tones up into the shadows as well. Everything has to be pulled together. I can't leave anything strictly purple, pink, any color by itself. I got to be pushing skin tones into all of it. It's just how much skin tone do you push in that's going to give you your final product. Right. It's looking pretty good. She's very alien on this side. Look at the difference, right? Wow, she's completely purple versus
Oh, wow, yeah.
what we're getting in this side.
Looks
But look how much, look at the natural aspects of the skin here, where the purple is now starting to just be in the shadows. It's just catching in the underarm, in the movement into the belly, a little bit coming out of the thigh, and that halo across the buttocks where the shadow starts to form. This is exactly why we do that entire red and purple underpainting, so that this skin tone shows as we airbrush, right? And as long as your placement works and anatomically correct, so that your reds are where you would get more flush colors in the skin, pinches in the skin, so on and so forth. You know, nothing is really standing out on like the shoulder and where the highlights are. We're getting really good value across the hip and the shoulder and the cheeks, right? So this is starting to look really, really good. And this is just one layer of flesh. Like, we still have a lighter color of flesh or two that we got to push on this model. Right, keep pushing these shadows back a little bit. Got to get that same area on her left thigh down there. So. The knee as it wraps into that shadow. So we get less of that dramatic purple, right? That purple looks really good there, but it's just like, purple. So we're gonna, now that we've got one layer of flesh tone over it, we'll go in and start pushing more skin tone. And notice how I'm shooting from up here at the thigh down through that shadow to where the shadow at the point still is going to maintain most of that purple. But now look at the flesh tone starting to encroach on it a little bit. Again, we'll come back to that another time or two to get it exactly the way we want it. Notice how we're not having any problems spraying this color, because this color is so thin that there's no chance of it clogging the airbrush. Right. Same in with this purple on her belly. We've got a couple of layers in there. We're going to go in with a third. Focus this layer more on just the shadow purple and less about the areas coming out across the belly, because I already like the skin tone across the belly there. I might get this area of her hip in shadow. But I'm fine with this area, like right down the belly line off to our left. I'm pretty okay with it. But notice how now that last layer now makes that purple look a little less intense. Same thing across the breast line. Down the arm. I'm not sure what that is. A little indentation on the middle of her arm. What did I do there? I don't know if I got like, I have to fix that with a brush. If that's paint, that might be an indentation in the model. Yeah, it looks like there's a little divot in the model that's catching shadows there. Again, push some more flesh color up under her neck. Always starting from where I know that the light is hitting. So at the collarbone level, we've got some light, and then the shadow will be more up towards the underside of her chin. So I'll start my layer here at the collarbone and then kind of throw some paint up into the chin. Still maintaining that little bit of purple we put over under the collarbone on her left. But now look at like the pinch of the elbows now is less pink, less irritated looking. I like that. I don't want to put too much more of this color on now because I'm starting to encroach too much on some areas. So I got to be careful, right? I want the little bit of flush skin on the inside of the thigh. I don't want to get rid of that, so I don't want to throw any more skin tone there if I can avoid it. Starting to look really, really good. Probably do one more pass in the belly shadow region in here, like so. Then we got to do a lot over here. She's still purple. Plasma Havoc. Any tips on fixing your X10 that you dropped on the point turns into a fork as soon as it gets paint on it?
Soap?
Yeah. Reshape it.
Goop?
Reshape it with our brush goop.
If you have brush goop, you can reshape it. You might not be able to use it for like a day or two while it kind of dries out and reshapes itself. But that might work.
Usually if you've got a deformation due to something really big, like dropping it, or you know you've used it overly heavy, it's really good to leave the brush soap in, pull it to a point, and leave that brush soap in for 3 days, 4 days, maybe a week. I mean, after the first couple of days, it really doesn't do anything different, right? It's going to repoint, and if the brush has the ability to go back, it will.
Tried goop overnight, but no good. Maybe
yeah, leave it in for days.
Longer. Maybe, put a big glob of it on there too.
Well, the glob doesn't really matter. It's only going to go, it's going to saturate at some point, right? Okay. So it's more about just getting the right amount to where it makes a point and hardens overnight, and then leave it there for a few days to kind of try to teach it to stay in that shape, because that's what you're having to do. you're having to retrain the brush. So time is your best friend there, and not all brushes will do it. You know, it's a toss-up sometimes, depending on how heavy the deformation was, as to whether or not you can retrain it. That's starting to look better on this side. We're losing a little bit of that purple step by step gradually. Again, don't throw on so much, you know, like we could stand to have a lot more flesh tone here, but we can't just throw it all on there, right? We can't put on enough flesh to get it to look like this all at once, because it'll just become runny mess, right? Because we're painting so thin. So we just got to keep being patient, layer it on, layer after layer, until we got like what we see. Like here, I still got too much purple. This is where we had that mishap with the color coming out of the airbrush. So I knew this one was going to take a little bit more layering than not. So I'm just going to throw a layer of flesh in those shadows, let it dry, then come back and add some more. Get up under her left butt cheek here as well. This calf muscle back here. Getting a lot of overspray on the clothing here because I've got to get down in this nook in between her leg and the suit as much as I can here. That's starting to look pretty good. Our purples are starting to fall into line. Again, I just need to let that dry. Can't pile in too much more paint there. Paint's going to start breaking. But I can go up here along the arm and the ribs. Across the back. Notice how I'm going across the back from this direction as opposed to putting more paint on from this direction, because I'm really happy with this right now. So I don't want to do another layer here if I can avoid it. I want to start here and work back into my other skin tone. See, we're getting that good value highlight on this side. We're getting a little dark over here, but I'm almost happy with that, right? It looks pretty bruised. So we want to layer a little bit more, but not too much. Back of the arm. Inside of this arm. I don't want to forget any of these areas where we put an abundance of shadow and have them look all wonky, because the next step, any place that we've left too dark, when we go to our next lighter skin tone, it's going to just flare out all that purple. It's going to look like clown suit if we're not careful. Come on.
I just got paint all over my hands from
You got paint all over your hand?
something. Yeah, I don't know what I touched, but it was painty.
Getting all these angles, make sure there's no areas where there's still like gray pre-highlight, like right here on that bicep close to the breast line. I want to make sure I'm not leaving any areas without color in there. Up here on the neck. Right down in the leg there. I'm gonna have to do that with the brush because I can't reliably, well, maybe. Yeah, okay, there we go. Never mind. Never mind. Had to get in close with the airbrush and get down. There's a line of her right leg down the pants there that I can't really get a good beat on from any other direction. So. Ready to layer in the back of these thighs again. This layer looks like it's the one. It's going to tie everything together. Now that highlight on the thigh coming around and drifting into that purple shadow, but not overly purple. Still kind of dark. But again, this is on the back side that we won't see a whole lot because it butts up against the inside of the cockpit, so I'm not really concerned. If we lose a little value there, it's shoved up against the wall, so to speak. This side is going to be more visible and needs to be focused on a little bit more.
Flarian wants to know how many models did you ruin before you had the feeling where you were aiming,
Aiming with an airbrush?
with the airbrush, yeah.
Ha! Good God, I don't know. I don't know that I consider it like ruining models. I just know that I was really scared for a long time as a kid to do anything that I would call, you know, important work with an airbrush. You know, there were plenty of times where I was not going anywhere near, you know, anything other than base coats because I'm like, no, I can't hardly even tell. If I can, you know, cover up an entire area with paint, then I'm fine. But like you're saying, you know, you get to a spot where you're like, no way, dude. If I go in like that, there's no way I can do that correctly. It would suck. And I was like that for years, probably. I mean, there was a time when I was a kid that I put the airbrush away because my first airbrush was a piece of garbage. It was like a Tester's compressed air can brush. You remember those? And we like to joke about those things, but they were a reality, and that was all I could afford as a kid. I think I got that given to me or conned my grandmother into buying it for me or something. Oh my God, it'll make my painting so much better. And then I was stone scared to use it. You know, like I refused to use the damn thing. You know, it's like, we spent $30 on that or whatever it was back then. And I was just like, I can't do it. It's so scary. Because you didn't want to ruin it, right? I mean, as a kid, especially as a painter and a kid where it was like, you know, 6 months of allowance money bought me one Tamiya model. And then you go screw it up. No, thank you. And I screwed up a lot of models. I always went back and fixed them, though. I don't think I ever threw anything away, like got mad and threw things away. I wouldn't put it past me. I was a grumpy kid sometimes. But I don't feel like that was my MO. I think before all else, I would have tried to have gone in and fixed it. A lot of the guys that I kind of looked up to, the Shepard Paynes of the world, doing 35th scale military models and stuff, were all about, you know, using the crazy tools at your disposal to not only do the job the first time, but to be able to go in and fix anything you might have screwed up along the way. So did create a fearlessness in me over time. But yeah, I mean, initially I wouldn't have been able to do anything like this. You'd have sat here and told me to go do this, and I'd been like, screw you, not a chance. And I know that there's some of you out there watching that are like, I could never do that with my airbrush. But realize you can. I'm not really doing anything that is overly hard other than just visually regulating how much paint I'm putting where I'm focused. You know, now the question was focused more about, you know, how long it took you to get to be comfortable with where you aimed was where paint went. And that's just a hand-eye coordination thing. And as much so hand-eye coordination, also maintenance of your airbrush, right? Because if your airbrush isn't properly maintained, it's gonna spray paint where you're not aiming. And so you gotta be a little careful. But once you get those things handled, I think it's not too hard of a deal. Okay, the inside of this arm over here. I may block you guys because I need to get an angle like right there, I think. Yeah. Wrist and down into the palm. I'm gonna overload that thumb a little bit. That's okay. Get right. Oh God, I don't want to get that thigh too much though is the problem. I'm going to hit that with a brush real quick, I think. Let me see if I can get it from this direction. Yeah, I got it. No, that didn't. Ooh. Sorry, my head's in the way. She is coming to life, though.
Looks so good.
Looking really good. I'm digging it.
Stop
Stop and read what you guys are saying for a second.
Okay,
I've been
I'm
doing a
letting you do
horrible
that.
job of paying attention to questions.
Well, I've got everything, so you're good.
Thank you, Florian.
Mythic props.
I hope it's
is
helping.
gonna be.
Right. Good Lord, from the wrong angle, it looks like she fell down the stairs. Not wrong. Like I said, if you're doing this technique correctly, it should look like bad bruising until you even it out. And notice, a lot of what I've been doing is spending more time on the darker purple areas to get the skin to lay in there right than I have been on the bright areas, because the bright areas are going to come to life real quick, right? There's less to cover up. You're going to see your skin tone. The hard thing in these bright areas is not to layer too much of this skin tone up to lose your underpinning of your highlights, right? So your pre-highlight still needs to show through and give you all of this this brighter skin tone. If I keep forcing this color on here, eventually it will dull those highlights down, and then I'll lose the punch that they're giving me, right? So that's the big key there. So I'm focused more on the shadow areas, just so those shadows start to blend and fade away, right? So that we just get shadow and not big clumps of purple and such. But we've got really good areas of that kind of flush pink coming out of the underarms, but now it doesn't look irritated. They just kind of disappear into the skin tone. Same thing in the cleavage. The chest has got some good pink. That little dot of purple that I put over under that clavicle, because of the way the shadow falls, looks really good. The shadow on her belly looks really natural there. It just kind of disappears. And remember, we had it clumped up pretty dark purple. Not solid lines, but close. You know, but now just by layering that skin tone on, and again, like I said, focus, you're not painting the whole belly every time. I painted the whole belly 2 or 3 times, and then I'm like, okay, now I just need to focus on the shadow, and then I just blend on the shadows and leave this side the way I had it, right? Same with the thighs, same with this knee. Now that purple doesn't just jump out at you, but you can still get that really good purple shadow in the curve of the knee there. Again, a little bit of that pink coming out of there. Same with the hands, right? The fingers have got a good amount of purple and pink coming into them. I'm liking that. Obviously, the brush will fix a lot of this in the end for any details we want, like knuckles. Like, I'm not going in and spending the time to just focus on getting me pink knuckles with the airbrush, right? That gets to be a little ludicrous at some point. I lost a little bit of the pink on the elbow when we went through with that heavy purple, so I'll go back and do that with the brush. I'm not worried about it, right? I'm still getting the bulk of what I want, and anything that isn't here at the end is what I'll go back in and fix with glazing and doing with the brush. Right? But I'm setting myself up for real good success with the brush. And I'm really, really happy with what we're seeing so far. Like, from that angle right there, that's great skin tone already. The only thing that's hurting it is that the bra and the clothing around it with all the overspray is causing it to look a little out of focus. That's the only issue when you're doing the airbrush. You've got to get kind of good at looking at everything that's going on so that you know that you're going to be okay, because it may disturb you that, the underwear and the bra and everything are causing the skin right around those areas to kind of look a little distorted, because you have different colors of overspray there, quote unquote, ruining it for you. So just be careful with that. I'm going to take a little bit of this color out on the brush real quick and glaze some areas that are being hard for me to get to before we go on to the next color in the airbrush. That's something that I would recommend you get used to doing, because if you just jump off to the airbrush, it becomes very, very difficult for you to come back in and glaze colors that you used before. Again, I'm just going to get this very, 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 very thin on the brush, so there's barely any color coming off, so that I can get into areas like right in here on the thigh.
Flare in probably like another hour.
What's that?
The stream was over soon.
Like 8.
It's
We
only
generally go
7.
to?
5.
Ah, did that literally just knock paint off? Are you kidding me?
Oh, your hat.
Sorry. I think I just knocked paint off the model right there on the knee. Did. Stipple that back in and fix that real quick. I hit it really hard. Misjudged as I was going in to blot it with my finger.
We
Like an
didn't start
idiot.
an hour earlier. No, we started at our regular time.
Yep, regular time.
5 to 8 Pacific. UK time changes is different than ours? Are different than ours?
Did they go to daylight savings time already?
I don't know.
Is that what they're saying?
Shidohari said if you're in the UK, your clocks drop back an hour. So it's 7 hours different instead of 6. Or 7 hours instead of 8.
Time change doesn't happen yet, so.
Yeah, we got a few more weeks. We don't change in Arizona.
Yeah, that's the big problem, is that we don't do the daylight savings time thing, so.
A week or two earlier than US.
I just say do away with it. There's no need for it.
2 to 5 is our, well, it says Wednesday time.
Yep.
Oh, but I guess where you are, maybe 2 to 5. Yeah. Yeah, we don't change. I don't think any Arizona changes.
Nope.
Maybe like
Whole state.
Maybe there might be one tiny piece of like reservation land that changes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess the reservations don't have to do what the state does.
They can do whatever they want.
Just using the brush to do some correction here real quick. Nothing fancy. The brush color will be a little bit lighter than coming out of the airbrush because it's concentrated off the brush no matter what you do, no matter how thin you go. So we're just going to kind of come in real loose. Try not to tear any more paint off by hitting it too hard. Okay, that's not good. Good, I need to keep fixing this area on the knee. It's going to look silly. At least it's right where the highlight color needs to go. So after all this work, I'm not going to go back and re-airbrush a lot of color on there. Thicker dot of color to fill that spot in, and then just kind of stipple it around and blot it, and that fixes it. A little bit more work than I wanted to do, but we cause our own problems around here.
Bye, Flarian.
Take it easy. Have a great weekend. This is where I got to be careful to not get too carried away, because as I start in with brushwork, I can get some really, really cool coloring going, and I can get stuck to a point where I'm like, oh, now we don't really want to airbrush anymore, and I don't want to do that to myself, so I really need to stop right now. Not do this anymore. Somebody stop me. I like that next door neighbor's truck or something.
Mm-hmm.
See, the problem is I can start picking out details, and I'll just like, I'll go, I gotta stop, right? So I gotta stop. We're not ready for this yet, but I'll get here and I'll be like, oh look, we can do this muscle, and that tone is really great, and then I'll be like, oh wait, too much. Already done enough that I gotta kind of even it out. couple of these areas real quick. All sorts of new sounds in the studio from this direction. Crazy. Tearing paint down there? It is, mother of God. What is going on? First time I'm using these AK paints to glaze like this, I feel like maybe this is a problem. They are not really liking being thin this much. They're breaking very quick. Stay away from those areas. They need to varnish her before doing a lot of brushwork, it seems. I haven't used these
Oh, because you airbrushed with them?
paints. Yeah, I haven't used these
And painted
paints
them?
for this kind of detail work before. And right now, they're not proving to really be great for what I'm doing. They're tearing and acting all sorts of weird as I go through and use the brush on them. Now I'm brushing really, really thin, so there's a lot of water on my brush, and I was thin with the airbrush, so they may have a longer curing time. Our new paints have got a longer curing time than what we're used to with like the Vallejos, and so I have to kind of be careful with those as well sometimes. If I start going too fast, glazing over them too quick after airbrushing really thin, then I just overload the paint with wetness, and it'll start causing havoc. So that might be what we're experiencing here. We'll see. Keep testing it, pushing it. I don't want to screw the model up, but he did great on the face right there. Go ahead and kind of lighten our shadow up on the neck with the brush here because it's working so well. No. Now I can go back to the airbrush. I just had a couple spots where I couldn't get paint, wasn't comfortable getting the flesh tone in, and there were some areas that were still a little light. I think right there on that hand I need to get still. On the inside of the palm. Boy, that's a tough one to get no matter which way you cut it. What's that?
Well, you're off.
Sorry.
Out of frame. There we go.
Sorry. Some of the stuff that I'm doing right now, I got to focus on getting the right angle. Don't know that I can always keep it on focus. That's pretty good. Okay, now we can go back to the airbrush. Assuming the airbrush still likes us. Still got paint in it. Whether or not it still wants to paint, that's another story. Seems good. All right, so I need to do another pass on this side. Again, to kind of knock these shadows back a little bit further, bring us closer to our skin color, like so.
Big bad boo man. There is a video on how to use the soap. Is it on YouTube?
Yep.
It is on YouTube.
Yeah, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/slowfusegaming, and go dig through the archives. There's, for some reason, I don't think it lets me put that video just like up front just because we want it up front.
You can't like pin the videos or something.
What's that?
You can't like pin them. to a certain spot.
No, the new
hat.
dashboard thing sucks, so.
There's also one Big Bad Booty Man. If you follow us on Instagram, there is one, a really short one there as part of a post about the brush care bundle. So I can tell you that if you follow us on Instagram, the picture, if you just scroll through our feed, the picture is like a brush rack and a can of soap sitting next to it, and then just swipe and there's a video. There's one short video that shows how to clean it, and another one, swipe again, and it shows you how to shape it. It's just a short, quick one. The YouTube one is going to be longer and more detailed. Instagram has no talking or anything in it.
It's not hard to find on YouTube. So.
No, I can't imagine it would be.
I think we're just about done with this color. If I push it too much further, I start losing my shadow. So I'm pretty happy with that. The dark side of her now versus the light side doesn't have that huge transition in value anymore. It's just got a good shadow. The chest area, everything is looking pretty good. Now as we start doing lighter skin tones, we'll start bringing out all of this contrast. Because right now, this is our base layer. Right? Remember, this is what we would have done if we were just painting her, you know, by hand. We would have just started with this color over our primer. And now, instead, we've got that nice purple and reddish shadow going on from our underpainting, right? Notice how her thighs get more red as they go down, but we've eliminated a lot of that shadow, right? Really good tone in there. Less bruisey looking color. I'm really happy now. So now let's move on to some brighter skin tones before we're done.
For tan, I've got the light brown. Do I start with like the black brown and then the chocolate brown and then the tan?
You can just start with chocolate brown. You don't have to go as dark.
Okay.
The thing when you're working with light top colors, like if your final color is going to be pretty light, if you go too dark to start, you wind up fighting that later on. So you got to be careful, right? Like can black brown can be too dark.
Okay.
At the end of the day. All right, I'm really, really stoked on this. That's looking really good. Let's clean this out. Yeah, I know. The hat is like literally at the lens. That's how close the camera is now. The camera used to be a lot further away. So the new camera setup is just going to take you guys dealing with me getting used to dealing with the camera. So again, I apologize when my big dome gets in the way. I don't want to move it because I really like this angle. It literally is just me training myself to not get in close and paint because see, yeah, the camera will focus on my hat and you'll see the individual threads of my hat, which I know you guys have been seeing all night, which I apologize for. We'll get better. It's just going to take me weeks, I'm sure. I'm a circus animal whose tricks are all having to be relearned right now as far as staying on camera because of the new camera setup. But like I said, I really like it. I mean, if I struggle and I just can't learn, then we'll move it back because I don't want you guys to have to deal with stare with my head all the time. But just bear with me for a little bit. Hopefully you get the meat of what I'm doing here, even if we can't move it off to YouTube because it's got my dome in the way the whole time. You're glad this is within terms of service? What, for Twitch? I'll paint boobies on Twitch. I don't care. I don't care. If you were sitting here painting this model and drooling over it and being sexist about it, then I could get why people would be bummed out. But I think it's a great model, right? It's not being sexy. It's like a working girl taking off her freaking flight suit. Now, it is intended to be sexier. You know, that's what we wanted for Tank Girl because Tank Girl was like that. But I don't get the whole, like, you can't paint artful models thing. I mean, I get it. It's Twitch's channel. They can do whatever they want. But it's that guy with hats. Yeah, I know. Sucks. Everybody likes the new angle, but you need to kick me more often because I'm like, I'm so close. It's literally that the camera is right here, right? Like I'm literally right here. Look at that. right? Like I don't have a whole lot of space to move. So I just have got to get good at bringing the model to me. Because the whole point is that I can bring the model to me like I would when I'm painting when you guys aren't watching. And now the camera is just like my eyes. So whereas the old camera angle, I trained myself to not bring the model to me like I normally do because it would be off screen when I did it, you know, and you guys would always have to kick me there. So hopefully I can just get good at this. Because right now I can bring this model up where I would normally be painting and you guys get it full in the whole time. So let's all cross our fingers and hope that Fuse can get better at this nonsense.
And I'll just be better at
And that Jen
pay
really
more
doesn't have to
attention.
kick me. All right, we're going to keep with the AK stuff, I think. Although I'm not real happy about the way that worked with the glazing, but I like this light flesh color. So we're going to go ahead and try it. It has a real matte finish like our paint does, and so the more matte a paint is and the thinner you go with it, the more careful you have to be about tearing it after it's, you know, it hasn't cured all the way. So I might just be painting too fast with it. We'll see. We'll do a couple of drops of this in here. What time is it? 7:22. We got some time. A couple drops just so I got enough to work with. It wastes a little bit of paint. Normally I wouldn't do more than a drop of this because I'm not... The further we go up the value chain in skin color, the less paint we'll use. Because you just aren't painting that much. So the AK stuff may not like the flow improver as much either. I might try using it with water and see if that helps. Some paints don't thin out as well with the flow improver. The main component of flow improver can dissolve some of the pigment.
He does need a haircut. How can you tell?
Damn, I do. That's why I'm wearing a hat all the time. I'm in that hat stage. I joke when I go to the barber because I'll go there and they go, so your hair's kind of out of control. How often do you get your hair cut? I go, whenever I get sick of wearing hats. I'm just lame like that. I've never really cared about my
You
hair.
can wear, there it is again.
What?
The hat.
Oh.
Ray said, I know you have a
goes
hat
by.
with a wizard on the top. Wear it to paint so we have something to look at when you flub. You can stop wearing the hat when you learn from your mistakes.
Well, the wizard hat shows me you'd be able to see the wizard in this screen down here. If I go like this, you wouldn't see the wizard.
Oh, yeah, it would still just be, I mean, it would
No,
be
I just
like
need to get good at this,
stars,
so
yeah.
I'm just going to get better. I'm going to start right now. This is my resolution. I'm going to start being better. All right. As we go brighter, we got to now start thinking about placement of paint. We can't just do the whole model now. So I'm going to start in around the face just to see how we like the color. I'm going to start at the hair and then bring it onto the cheek, nose, chin area like that. Get that brighter color going in along that area. Shoulder. I can't be shooting this into the shadows. It'll get rid of the purples and the reds real quick. So what I got to do is kind of aim at the shoulder from our lighting direction, build up some color, and then just kind of shake the brush, fade it out. All right, so I get the brightness I want. But if I go back with this bright of a color and shoot it like into the armpit shadow there, I'm afraid I'll lose too much of the purple. So at first we're just going to kind of angle the model. Like we need it, right? Get the back of the shoulder across the spine up between the shoulders here. I'm shooting the model like this. The paint is going across the model this way, right? So not directly down at it. That way I maintain that shadow. I see where the dips in between the shoulder blades are. And if I shoot across them, I keep that purple and pink down in there and I get that nice play of color across like that, which is exactly what I want. Get a little bit on the ear here. Neck. Get this hip. Be shooting down at the hip about like this. Get this area right in here. Blend that as we go. Again, not push it too far in towards the waistline of the underwear. because then I'll get rid of that pink and purple that are there. All right, I'm going to get the curve of the back coming right underneath the bra strap here and down across the ribs. So I want to shoot at this angle. Again, so any undulations in the ribs don't force paint into the shadows. If I shoot like this, my shadows, you see there's a little bit of darkness that goes into the rib cage there. If I shoot this direction, all that goes away. So I want to shoot like this, aiming down at that. Like so. And see how I keep those shadows? I just get that little bit of brightness coming down, but see how it peaks down across the top of the ribs. I start to get that definition. Although she's not like painting like a Conan model where you're going to get, you know, big, huge indentations in the ribs like GW does. Right, but we can still take advantage of the sculpt. Same thing, I'm going to kind of angle down the spine from this direction. So again, I'll be shooting across the spine like this. So I can try to get some brightness. Layered right down like that on the center line of the back so that I maintain that shadow coming right down the spine indentation. And I pick up the lightness to the left side like that. Again, doing that by shooting here. See how I just kind of painted that line because it sticks up higher on the model. So you just got to focus on what the shape of the model is and say, okay, how can I paint that ridge? Right? Well, I aim at it and I just spray right like that. Okay. Same thing over here. I want to get a little bit of highlight down on like the butt dimple, back of the ribs. Same steep angle, so that everything I pick up just little bits of color. Like so. Looking pretty good. This is just one layer. Remember, we're still pretty thin. We're just trying to set it up. I need the front of the thigh here. Now this I am going to paint directly at the front of the thigh. And I just want to kind of keep the brush tip moving like this with that kind of palsy motion that we do. So I'm blending as I go. And I just get that nice highlight starting right at the pinch of the underwear. Whereas I was staying away from the pinch of the underwear up top because it pinches and the skin then goes underneath. Right? If you looked at the side, even though she's not, you know, she doesn't have a lot of body fat, the underwear still pinches and you get a little fold of skin that goes up like this and it'll be shadowed as it comes down towards that. Here, it's the opposite. The pinch makes that top brighter and then it'll drop off. So on the underside of the underwear, I want to highlight right at the line at the underwear. Right there. And then I just want to tail it off as I go down the leg. Blending side to side with that shaking of the brush like that. See? And now it has a really nice scoop down into the shadow, but I keep that shine from the hip and the top of the thigh going. Because remember, this is our lighting direction. The light is hitting straight on like this, off her right shoulder. And I always want to keep coming back to that as I look at where I want my brightness. I always want to hold the model where I chose to have that lighting from. And that's up to you, right? No model comes with a light source. Well, some of them might if they're holding like a fireball in their hand or something like the stuff we painted in the past. But for this guy, girl, we got to choose. So we just got to remember and keep coming back to it. Like so. So I got a highlight and then a little bit of shadow right above the underwear and then a highlight coming out of the underwear and then shadow as we go down the leg. Shadow at the bottom of the rib cage as it curves back into the body. A little bit of brightness right here at the top of the rib cage. Give that definition. And then as I'm pushing brightness down low, when I look at it, I reevaluate what I've got up here on the shoulder and come back and maybe pump the shoulder up a little bit brighter. And then pump the face up a little bit brighter if I need. Always evaluating as I put color down the model. If I get brighter down here in my shadow region, then I got to put more color up top. Right? Like we don't have any highlight on this arm yet. So now we'll go back and do that. And again, I'm going to shoot down the arm. So flip the model around. And I'm going to get my highlight to where it goes along this bicep region, right up at the top. Then it catches the forearm. Sorry, it's probably in the way again. Right? So again, bicep. Let me do this the right way. Right? The bicep, and then down here on the forearm. Right? Aiming down, because my shadows are going to modulate at the bottom where those muscles then curve back into the elbow. Highlight as it comes out from the elbow along the forearm, and then shadow as it goes back down towards the wrist, and then highlight on the hand as it comes back out. So if I've done that right, I see my wrist, my elbow, and whatever definition the body sculpt gives you. She didn't have a lot of definition on her bicep, so we don't see a whole lot of other shadows, except from the Band-Aid that I have sculpted on there. Right. So now that highlight works pretty well. I probably want to pump a little bit more onto that arm as we go. Let's get the collarbone area. Right, so I'm going to come in shooting right along the collarbone on her right side. That, brighten up that collarbone coming out of the bra strap. The little bone of the collarbone on the other side, I just want to get that little highlight there and then not push it along, right? Because this collarbone over here goes over towards shadow. That's looking pretty good. I want to push a little bit of color along the neck here. Brighten that up just a bit. Again, shooting across it like this so that those shadows that fall from the sculpt stay in there. If I was trying to shoot this direction, then I'd put paint in that crease on the neck, and I want to avoid that. Right? I need a little bit of highlight like right here on the top of this breast and a little bit right here on the chest. So again, I'm going to hold the model like this, and I'm going to paint like this across, so that paint will aim right here at the top of the breast, right here at the top of this chest, and the overspray will pick up on this breast and the top of the chest over here, which is fine. It'll leave that indentation along the sternum and into the cleavage with shadow if we do it right. Again, it's pick the angle and let the angle that you hold the model and the angle you shoot from do at least 50% of the work for you, if not more. Rather than trying to do like this and say, okay, I got to paint right here, and then here, and then here, and here. That's really hard to do with an airbrush. We want to hold it like this so that the geometry of our paint angle takes care of our highlight for us. So let me get my head, my fat head out of the way.
You don't have a fat head.
I did for a second there. The camera showed it.
Oh. Moto wants to know if Taint Girl has any tattoos in the book.
Yeah, she always has tattoos and crazy crap. So we'll be painting that on here too. So did you notice that? As I shot towards her right breast, see how the left breast highlighted in there where we need it to? That's exactly where it should have happened. But we got a little bit of highlight at the top of the left breast, and all the overspray went to our left, but her right. So all of the aiming at the right breast at that little area, and then the overspray highlighted the left breast for us. Same thing here, a little bit of highlight here, and all the overspray goes over to the right. And now we have a really good highlight and shadow across the top there. We start looking pretty good. We've maintained that shadow across the chest. Now I'm going to brighten this up just a bit. Ugh. Sorry guys, bear with me. I'm learning. It really is like having to learn all over again. So, bingo, that's about what I'm looking for. Notice how I still keep all those shadows. I can see exactly where the clavicle and the neck muscles are because I didn't aim straight in here and have to pick all that out. Picking at that angle allows me to hit just the tops that I want, get all the highlights the way I want them, and bingo, we're starting to get really, really good looking on this. All right, same thing. Let's go and get some paint over on this shoulder, just a little bit. On that off shoulder, not too much, just kind of that spot right at the shine at the top. All right, get that bicep. Again, painting this way so that I keep that indentation from the shoulder down to the bicep with that shadow. Then I want to get the forearm, shooting across. I'll aim at my finger, start getting some paint on the finger, bring it down onto the forearm, and then right down to the thumb, like that. I want to get a little bit of highlight across the belly. I'm going to, again, aim from this side. See where that little part of her belly is? You get that little highlight? I want to hit that with a little bit of bright paint. I don't want any bright paint in the shadow of the hip, so I want to aim like this, so I'm not going to be getting any paint in here. If I were to aim here and try to paint like this, I'm going to get overspray over into the hip. So same thing, right? I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but this is the way to control your airbrush, right? So let's get in here and clean my airbrush tip because I feel like I'm not getting the paint I want. So there we go. That got it. I don't want to do highlight up in the rib cage because the posture that she has right here, that rib cage needs to be dark, but see that little spot of belly wants that highlight. So we get it. Keep the shadow on the rib cage the way we need it. Looking really good. Now let's look over at the other leg. This knee. It's going to be pretty bright. Tip of the knee. And I'm just going to do a little bit of highlight up the thigh here. Not too much. Like so. Again, I'm pushing paint up into the thigh and the shadows there because I can't get a good angle to paint the other way. Normally I would want to paint down, but I don't have that angle because of her posture, right? She's leaning over that thigh, so it's hard for me to get in there. So I'm just going to have to aim from the knee and feather up to the waistline. Okay, so when I feather, I basically start a line here, and then as I paint and go up, I just start doing this. So more focused as I start and then shaking the brush as I move up, and that feathers it and blends as you go. So if I want more brightness right here at the knee, just aim till I see paint, then start shaking the brush and moving the brush up towards the inside of the thigh there. And I get a nice blend. I get a nice highlight going up that way. Don't get too overly bright in there. Works really well. This hand a little bit brighter. Again, I just want to shoot straight down at the wrist, brighten that wrist on this hand a little bit more to match what I've done on the knee. Remember, constant evaluation. Every time you put color down, I really like the brightness of the knee, but is this arm too dark now? Yes, because it doesn't hit the same brightness as the leg, so I need to push that brightness up the arm again. So I'm going to go back to the way I did the arm. And push more brightness on that arm to make it match the leg. Then as I do that, I got to say, okay, now is it too bright for the shoulder? And if the answer is yes, then I got to brighten the shoulder back up again.
Well, huzzah, huzzah! I'll just throw back my legs and pollute
Dealer
my
of death.
breeches with delight.
What is going on, dealer?
24 months.
24 freaking months. Dos euros. What's going on, man? Thank you so much. Okay, so we're working along pretty well now. I want to put a little bit of brightness on the belly down here, so I am going to shoot this direction. And just feather it very lightly in there on the belly. And then I'm even going to do a little bit right at the spot where the sternum and the rib cage hits right there. Right under the cleavage. That little spot right there. I want a little brightness right there. Okay. As a matter of fact, Paint it from this angle. Not get my big fat head in the way. I'm trying. Cradle it in my hand. And then just a little bit of brightness right there. See how a little bit of brightness right in that spot in the middle. I think that works great. Liking it. I like this other thigh. I don't think that's bad at all. I don't know that I want to push a lot of brightness down in there. A little bit over the belly button, not too much. Really starting to like this. The looking good. I do need a haircut, snafu. You are not lying. Do I ever worry about fingerprints on the models? Nah. Gloves take off more paint than my skin does. I don't like gloves. I don't like wearing gloves. I've tried it before. I used to wear a black glove because on stream it helped with the contrast, but then you just change the background. And once we all started doing that, the glove doesn't help me at all. So a little bit at the tip of the knee, a little bit brighter. See if I can catch a little bit of that peak of her butt cheek right there. A little bit of highlight there. It's pretty good. Over here, we can stand and do a little bit on the thigh, but I don't want too much brightness here because we don't have a light source. It's just ambient reflected light on this side, so I just want to kind of feather. Same thing on the hip. A little bit of brightness there. Probably push that a little bit further. So see, every stage we go, we push that purple and that pink back just a little bit further, but they're all still relevant. And right now the goal is to look across the back and see, am I too bright here and too dark here? Fix that a little bit. I feel like this shoulder over here could be a little bit brighter. So yeah, that's pretty good. Now I've got good value going right to left because that's where our lighting source is over here, right? So we don't want too much darkness over here. We want to think about the lighting source being this direction so we can stand to have here because we're not shooting a light straight at her side. So it might look like the back of her thigh has a little bit more shadow than we really want. Side has a little bit more shadow than we really want. But we got to remember that the lighting's really like this. And notice where the natural shadow, see how that dark gray black shadow that's coming just because of the model? That's where we want our color to be relevant in there and have that shadow exist in those spots where the model casts its own. And right now I think we're doing great because the model's casting a shadow right along the thigh, right where we've got that shadow painted. That's the key. Casting its own shadow right there through the rib cage, which is where we've got it painted. Another key. It doesn't have, there's not as much natural shadow falling in that hip crevice, but I really like it.
World Leaders has a question for this kind of workup. At the very end, when you do the wasteland soil to highlight the blood under the skin, would you do that with a brush or an airbrush on a 1/6 scale model?
Probably a brush. You know, 1/6 is always tough to tell. You can do some with the airbrush at the end and do your final glazing that way if you want. There's nothing that is problematic with it. I feel like you're always going to want to go in a little bit with the with the brush at the end just to tidy it up, right? The brush gives you a lot of leeway that the airbrush doesn't, right? And you'll find that you can add texture that way. You can do a lot of fun things that, you know, the airbrush isn't really going to allow you even on 1/6. Although I don't know. I feel like I probably would do it all with brush just because I'm that guy. Whenever I'm creating those effects at the end, it's all about glazing. It's all about being able to feather it the way I want it to feather, where the airbrush can do it. I guess maybe just play with it and see. You know, if you've got like, you know, like areas on her, right? Areas like the clavicles, right? The collarbones where you want to be able to get into those tight crevices, the pinch, where on a male you would have the Adam's apple, and on the female where the neck comes down right at the top of the sternum between the clavicle, then you want to be able to get in there very precisely. And even on a 1/6 model with the airbrush, it may be that when you go in to get precise, you might get it look a little liney, you know? And if you just glaze it with the brush, you can blur all that and get it specifically where you want it without all the hassle and the worry. So I'd probably just do brush. Ray, nice, Ray. But again, you know, it's one of those. Dealer Death, we love you too, man. By the way, saw that message finally. It really is your own. There's no hard, fast rule, right? Every model is going to be different. As you're seeing, I mean, we've painted models this size before, and like our Stormtrooper model, we didn't do the base layers this way, right? We just did it with skin and then highlights and then glazed back with a brush to get the pinks and the purples back on her. So you can do that. You can start this way and do it all airbrush and less on the brush and be perfectly fine that way. So it really is up to you as to what you're most comfortable with at a certain point. Now, you know, I know that sounds like a bogus, you know, cover my tracks kind of answer because I don't have to be too specific, but I think it's true, right? It's whatever you're comfortable with. You know, I'm going to look at things differently than the next guy. Because I'm more comfortable with close-in work with the airbrush, or, you know, doing stuff like what we're doing here right now. You know, like I want to go in here and highlight this arm, so I want to get right here above the elbow with just a little bit of brightness and then trail it down as it goes towards the wrist. All right? So I'm okay by going in and doing that. There might be people that would cringe at doing that little bitty highlight on the airbrush and feel like they couldn't aim correctly, or that it would be too bright, or that it would run and streak. So, you know, again, the scale of the model helps as you get bigger, like we've talked about, right? 1/6 is big. Let's get the top of the wrist and the top of the hand there, sorry. Again, just a spot highlight at the top of the wrist. Let's get this tip clean. Holy balls. This paint's been in the brush for a long time now, so I'm starting to see the paint itself curing. Run down the forearm length there. I only wanted a little bit of highlight on the back. So I'm getting in tight and just highlighting right up towards the top of the forearm here, and then letting it drop into shadow pretty quick on the back side. But on the front side, I want to run that down the arm more. Get the back of the arm here and a little bit of highlight again, just kind of right up towards the top. Pull out some of that definition without making it overly bright, because again, this side of the body needs to be darker than this side of the body. And by doing that, I need to reevaluate, because that brightened it up more so than the back of this arm. So let's come back over here. Right. Get her arm, the back of her arm over here to get a little bit brighter. There we go. Constantly evaluating as I put color on the model to make sure I'm not unbalancing certain aspects of it. I need to get these calf muscles down low. Right? We haven't done much down on the bottom area here, so we need to brighten up that calf. And we've got a little bit in here. We can stand to throw a little bit of brightness on that one. We don't want to go too crazy because that leg's up underneath. So we definitely want her right leg to be brighter. How's it coming over there, babe?
It's coming.
We haven't paid any attention. I haven't paid any attention to what you've been doing.
No. It's because you don't care.
I'm a horrible person today.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring a little bit of highlight on the back of the thigh. I'm feathering that color on right now, so I'm not going to get any really intense pickup. I'm going to get just the inside of the knee and then fade it up a little bit. So, looking pretty good. A little bit more brightness on that thigh, which means a little bit more brightness on this hip. Which is going to push a little bit more brightness across the back. I don't want to get too carried away here. And I'm pretty happy with what we got, so I'm probably going to stop there. Talk about it a little bit more. That'll probably be all I do tonight before we shift off to a brighter color, because we've got one more skin tone to work up to. Go a little bit brighter. Then we'll start painting clothes. Once we get base layers on clothes, we'll go back and redefine some of the skin. Judge Cam, what's going on? For anybody that's just joining us or joined in later and isn't aware of what we're doing, we are painting a kind of a third-party garage resin model of a Maschinen Krieger pilot for a diorama that we're doing, which is an homage to Tank Girl. If you're familiar with the Tank Girl comics, we're going to be painting her up like Tank Girl. I've sculpted some custom band-aids, one across the nose. I gave her this cigar band-aid on her thigh, right? So she's kind of beat up now. We'll give her the standard tattoos and craziness. Pink and blue and green hair, I think I got figured out that I want to do. Be pretty colorful hair. Should be a lot of fun. Do just a little bit of dusting on this neck over here, just to brighten it up a little bit. Again, the nice thing about working this thin is I literally can do a dusting of color if I need to bring up the value in a certain area, and I won't get a whole lot of paint, right? So just by dusting, I'm not going to eliminate any shadows, because right now I'm really, really happy with the shadows on her chest, everywhere really. I think we've got a really great looking model right now. We can stand to go a little bit more pale, but not too much. This is looking really good. Me likey likey. I think that's it. What time is it? 7:54. Perfect timing.
Whoa.
Cool, World Eaters. Like I said, you know, there's nothing with, even with the glazing, well, okay, so here's an issue, right? Even when you take your paint down super, super thin, as you've seen, you'll get more volume, you'll get more value out of brush painting. So, you know, let's say you're working with that big model and you want to do the wasteland soil treatment to it at the end after you have your flesh tones worked up. You'll get less impact off the airbrush immediately than you will off the brush. And one of the things that I really, really like with doing that process is how impactful it is off the brush, so I can see something immediately. The airbrush, when you thin it out that much, is going to be, you know, even less opaque because it puts much less paint out, you know, per cubic micron than a paintbrush does, if we want to say it that way. And, you know, so the paintbrush is going to leave more paint behind, regardless of how thin you make the paint. It's going to unload more paint every surface area that it touches than the airbrush ever will. And so, you know, you see the immediate gratification as you're doing it with a brush. Now, you may have to use a bigger brush, right? Because you're doing a 1/6 model. So I'm not going to lie to you there. You're probably not going to want to do that with like a number 2. You're probably going to want to use like a number 4 or number 3 at least to do your glazing, right? But I would figure that you'd probably want to see the impact of those colors pretty quick rather than trying to layer them and layer them and layer them and layer them. But that's up to you. Again, it's just a comfort thing. You're trying to reach a goal, and we never tell you, or try not to at least, tell you, okay, here's the way to do this, right? We try to tell you what the look is and then give you a couple of techniques that can get you there. And, you know, glazing a particular look or airbrushing a particular look can both be the right answer. You know, so don't get stuck on, oh my God, Fuse said, you know, that I had to do this off the brush. And if you start doing it off the brush and you feel like, good God, this is going to take 1,000,000 hours because the model's so big, whip out the airbrush and do it. You just have to realize what the limitations are with each tool and what the benefits are of each tool and work towards those with a good understanding of, you know, the final product that you're looking for, right? So if the airbrush is going to take more layers, go into it knowing, you know, right off the bat that I'm going to have to do this 2 or 3 times before I see what I'm really looking for, and don't get frustrated when on with the airbrush you go in with the wasteland soil real quick on like the elbows and the knees and, you know, the pinch of the underarm, and you don't see it much because you can overload it with the airbrush and make it runny and get too much. So you're going to have to put a little bit on, let it dry, put a little bit more and let it dry, and then you might start seeing it. Then do your 3rd layer perhaps, and then you'll really start seeing it come to life. So just be patient if that's the route you choose. And then with the brush, understand that, well, I'm not going to cover as much area as quickly, so it's going to take more time. And be patient with that. You're going to see what you want, but it's going to take larger brush strokes, it's going to take a softer hand, and it's going to take, you know, more time to cover the same amount of area that the airbrush will. That's kind of the balance as you get bigger, as where the airbrush covers more surface area a lot quicker, but it takes a little bit longer to get to your final product because of the layering process before you can see if it's working the way you want it to. The brush, you'll see it immediately that it's working the way you want it to, and then you'll be like, oh God, I got to do this, you know, 5,000 hours because this model's so huge. So. You bought about 9 models at the 1/6 scale? Holy hell, you're a trooper. To practice skin tones? Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Like the airbrush, because you don't see it, our tendency just as humans, right, is that if you don't see what your expectation is manifest itself on the model almost immediately, you over apply paint. And when you're painting thin with the airbrush, if you don't see it and you immediately go over it, the paint breaks. It's too wet, it starts running, it spiders, all those bad things. So, you know, you've watched me tonight over the course of 3 hours build this model up and go through a ton of stages of weird colors and awful bruising to get to this that is starting to look really, really good. And we still have one more lighter skin tone before we get into brushwork. But, you know, it starts to evolve, and it just takes that patience. That's a lot. I get asked behind the scenes a lot that, hey, mine isn't looking like yours. What can I do to make it different? And in a lot of cases, my first thing is, how many layers did you put on? And they're like, well, like 2. And I'm like, well, it probably needs 5, you know? So be patient and wait for that color to show up if you choose to do the thin airbrushing method, you know? Because, I mean, how long did we spend on that first layer of flesh tone before we saw the shadows dip and dive the way we want them to? Remember, the back of the thighs stayed almost pure purple for a long time, and we just had to keep layering, let it dry, work on another part of the model, be patient, come back, layer again, work on another part of the model, be patient, and now we have a really, really good shadow, right? Where the only place we really see the purple intrude a lot is at the bend of the knee and the darkest shadow that this model has on that leg back there, right? And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that's a perfect shadow right there, right? Because the model itself casts that super dark shadow on itself when we get towards the viewing angle of the light. That's probably the only place on the model that really does that. Maybe right underneath the breast line, which also has the most intrusion of the purple still on it, right? Because as we bend over, the breasts and the rib cage start to drop a ton of shadow there as well. So we've just tried to match the natural shading or shadow that the model casts on itself with our highlight, and then work from there. But it takes all that patient time to build those layers up, continue to watch the color, pay attention. It's an iterative process. Evaluate the model every time you make a pass. Don't cover every area all the time. Sometimes, like you said, or like you saw me do, I'm going to have to focus just on the shadows. And then if the shadows, when I get them the way I like, then evaluate it and say, okay, now how are they compared to the highlight? And if you've had to push the level of skin tone brighter than you thought here in order to make the shadows look right, you might then have to push more brightness across this area so it doesn't all look the same. So you're constantly riding that teeter-totter of value and where I'm bright and where I'm dark, and side to side, top to bottom, and keep looking at it. You know, okay, I put brightness on this side over here. Is it now brighter than the side that's in the light source? If it is, then you got to brighten this side up over here. You know, if the answer is yes, but this is so bright you can't brighten it up anymore, then you got to add shadow over here. But that's what you try to stay away from by just evaluating constantly as you put paint on. And you hopefully see me doing that all the time, walking through and going, okay, you know, I painted the back of this arm and now it was brighter than this.
Hi.
Really?
I owed you.
You did owe me. Rat bastard. That was a big gloppy one. It totally interrupted my train of thought.
Sorry.
I deserve this. So for something I've done in my life. Enigma, you bastard.
I mean, I don't know who started it.
Max Payne, what's going on? Willy Maman, thank you. I might be playing it for I'm ignoring Jen. That's not right. Yeah, but I mean, skin tones especially, no matter what the scale. Jen loves doing skin tones, and I was telling her today, I mean, her skin tones are looking fantastic. Look at what she's done with this guy so far. Oh, holy hell, you've done a lot of work today.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. The vest and the shirt look really, really good. And the skin looks fantastic, babe.
Thanks. And
she's doing all of this with a brush, right? And she's getting really, really good tones off of this for her chibis just with blending. She loves skin and is crazy. Like legit, that's awesome, babe.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't need to paint anymore. Jen's taking over the channel.
No.
She's doing it all from here on out.
So false.
If we can get her into feeling secure picking her colors, she wins.
Yeah, I have a hard time with
So that's the
colors.
only thing that you really have a hard time with is saying, okay, so I want to do tan, and then we just got to get paint colors. But you're learning, like for me, I'm like, I don't know, this, because all of our paints, I don't know what the name of them are. I don't care. I just go for hue, right? But again, you know, we've got two totally different approaches for coming at skin tones here, and when you put them next to each other, you see the huge difference, right?
Mine looks orange.
No, it looks great. It has that cartoon flesh to it, which is great. It doesn't look orange. I mean, it does according to here because I've got a lot of real cool colors in here with the purples and stuff taken over, right? But we're going for a paler, dirty, battle-worn tank girl flesh, you know, and you've got this really cool kind of darker Mediterranean skin tone going on him that has a really great hue to it. I think that looks great. And the cool thing is that what you've been doing is going through and doing different skin tones, right?
Yeah, that one's a little bit different.
So here you've got pale skin. Right? Using a lot of the same colors, just starting from a lighter base and working up brighter. Right? Now Jen, on hers, if she wanted to, she hasn't gotten to the point where she's really started going back with the kind of affecting of hue shift that we do for like blood under the skin and stuff, because the chibis don't really ask for that.
They're not realistic.
Yeah, they're not meant to be as realistic, so I think it would be kind of weird to do that. We've done it before, like our tank guy we did, and we gave him 5 o'clock shadow and all that stuff, but it was a thing we meant to do from the beginning. I think this is the better way to do it, just because the whole group is going to be cohesive, but all your skin tones are totally different, you know, when you look at her, right? That's great. She's killing it. Holy hell, why am I showing off your models? You're putting me to shame.
Can you look at physics eyebrows and tell me if I did okay? Because they weren't sculpted in there, so I kind of had to just paint them on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, heck yeah. I like it. I like this one kind of raised a little bit. Yeah, no, that looks perfect, babe. He's so funny. It doesn't look like Andre the Giant at all, but you know who it is. That's so good. Yeah, I love it. Perfect job with the eyebrows. Yeah, because I was looking at them and I was like, they're not really sculpted on there. But
no,
there's
like you can
She's too
see
good.
where it's supposed to go, but oh.
She's too good. She's too good. You're too good.
No.
I quit. I quit. I'm out of here. Screw it.
It's also basic compared to the stuff you do. So
Screw
like,
it.
I'm feeling like I'm close to mastering just basic painting.
Max Payne, Jen needs to teach us chibi painting. You're failing at it right now. She wins. Like, literally, she wins. You know, we went through a few of the models together and helped her out with understanding the whole blending the paints, mixing the paints, and you took it and ran. She took it and ran to a level where I would look over at her painting, especially when you did the dress, right? Because the dress on What's-Her-Nuts, Buttercup, is literally 2 colors, right? It's ivory and mahogany. Whole red and ivory. And she got like 14 colors of pink out of it just by mixing on her palette all of the colors. I mean, the whole thing is literally whole red and ivory. And just her over there blending. And you look at her palette and she's got 50 shades and hues of you know, whole red with ivory mixed together. And has literally just done a great job of it. I mean, look at all these pinks. Look at all that. You know, give her 2 colors and she just made a whole, you know, palette of hue out of that. And so, you know, that if she, I think, has found her niche with that, right? I can hand her a dark color and a light color and she'll make all the colors in between. And that, of course, makes that color live very, very nicely with itself from shadow to highlight. Me, on the other hand, I try to lay them out and say, okay, this color with this color and this color will work really good. And then when we airbrush, it takes care of creating the colors in between, because when you airbrush thinly, it starts creating all the in-betweens. You know, this looks like 15 different colors, right? And in reality, it's 4. But we get so much more out of it because of layering thin, building up more in certain places and not in others. I mean, if you look at just this thigh right here, you know, that's a dozen colors in there if you just want to start blending colors. But it's 4 with the airbrush, because that's the power of the airbrush, but it's also then your control and placement, you know. Well,
and I think the cool thing about blending colors too is that you don't need as many.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
You can have just a, you know, basic color set of paints and...
Yeah, and when we get our paints, our initial line of our paints comes out with 29 hues. And those 29 hues, we'll show you how to do a million things with it, because you'll just blend them. And the pigmentation on them is so amazing that our paints are going to blow your mind when you get them in your hand and see them, because 1 drop of paint to 1 drop of paint will literally give you a 50-50 pigmentation blend of those 2 colors, whereas with other companies' paints, it might take 2 drops of blue with 1 drop of red, depending on the pigment density, to get the purple that you're really going for. Ours, if purple is 50 blue, 50 red, you'll put 1 drop and 1 drop and you will get the blend that you want. So for mixing, we're going to really start focusing in on showing you how to do exactly what Jen does all day. So, I mean, literally, you don't use many colors at all. I think your browns are always the same, 5 browns, you know, and then you do everything with 5 browns, but you make a bunch of different colors with it. So, again, great. And some people take to that like fish in water, like you have, and it just becomes easy, and you blend, and now you get your blends really smooth on the model. You've gotten really great at that. So everybody learns a little bit differently, and that goes back to what I alluded to earlier. We're not trying to tell you how to get to the finish line. We'll give you those tools and teach you, and you'll watch my method, you'll watch Jen's method as she teaches and learns her own, and I've got a whole, you know, toolbox of stuff I can tell you on how to get there. What I'm really trying to do is show you the finish line and show you where to start, and then give you all those tools to choose your path in the middle, whether you want to airbrush, whether you want to brush paint, whether you want to blend your colors, or whether you want to buy 7 colors that gradually change value and hue the way you need them to on the way. There is no right or wrong answer in art, as long as what you're doing is keeping your eye on where you're headed at the finish line that you're looking for, that story you're trying to tell, and then, you know, understanding where you need to start. Those are the 2 hardest things, for me at least, and for everybody that I know, because we'll want to change our mind a lot on the way to the finish line. And so I think, you know, because I'll start off with a story, and very rarely does it ever end up exactly the way we want. The alien diorama kind of did, because it was chibis, it was simple, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, so it kind of got there. You know, but in most cases, like with this model, I don't know starting out exactly what flesh tone we're going to end up with. I'm going to say to myself, I kind of want it pale, so I know I don't want to start as dark as I would if I wanted tan flesh. So I start with a little bit of a lighter hue. You know, when we started, we didn't have a real dark skin tone on here. So it's going to continue to be kind of pasty flesh as we work it up, not a lot of color. But if you chose a different path midway, you're going to have to understand how that influences it and understand, okay, I started here, what do I need to do to change? And, you know, hopefully what it does is over time, you take these kind of ideas and tools that we give you, and you build up your own confidence on how you would get there. You know, hey, I want to do what you did, but I don't have an airbrush, so I started using your glazing technique, which gives you the ability to layer with fewer colors to achieve the same goal, and I got this. And know that, yeah, it might look a little different, but holy hell, your results can be really spot on. And that's really where we're at. I mean, that's why you very rarely hear me say, the way to do this is, you know, there's a million ways Depends on what you want. Mahogany, take a drink. Did I say mahogany? I thought we said whole red.
You did. Well, you said mahogany first.
Damn it. All right, gang. I think that's it for us. Any last words from Jen?
I don't think so.
I like the new setup, except that I'm too dangerously close to you.
Pretty close.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Dude. Way too
grab your
close.
butt, too.
Ah! Hashtag me too. I just got butt assaulted right here in public. You guys saw it? Well,
Oh, there's a mosquito in here.
they saw it's a fly.
No, there's a mosquito in here.
That we're being drenched with mosquitoes in Arizona lately. All right, so we're done. We're out. You don't know if you saw it, but at the very beginning of the stream, you had kind of a long question about doing kind of an energy spray effect on the Gundams. Is that something you could look back over and answer? Should you just Facebook me a question about it? You can ask it again right now. Click says he saw nothing. Liar! Well, technically, you didn't see the butt grab. You just saw my, and her reach over and do the, that. See? So I guess I don't really have, you have an alibi that you were just joking.
Yeah, I didn't do
And I
anything.
made it up. Great. I see how this is going to go. World Eaters, feel free to ask it again. The question is unfortunately not here. So you'll have to ask again. I don't have a way to get back to
They
it.
go away. We don't get to see you back.
But sure, ask again and I'll answer it before we get out of here.
Yay! Thanks, Click.
What? With friends like these.
Yeah.
You don't care.
You've got your Team Jason people.
Where are they? Let's get some Team Jasons in chat. Is anybody on my
There's
side?
Some of them.
Is any on? Click says she sent you your pay. Okay. So see, she's the one that gets all the
I give
friends
them all the
because she
stuff.
ships all the orders.
I give
So
them all the
that's true.
goods.
Kevin Rob's like, who? Team who? Jason. Who's Jason? You bastages. All right, World Eaters. There you go. Mythic props. All right. I got at least one friend. There you go.
You got your KTP.
There you go. Oh, she sent you a sticker too. Great. I see. So what you're saying is that your loyalty and affection can be bought. All right. I see.
It's my kind of people.
World Eater says, okay, you're going to do a diorama with the two Gundams clashing their energy weapons together and want to do an energy spray from between them, kind of something similar to the slice mark you're going to make through the Gundam, and you'd like to know how you were going to pull that effect off. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Sure. Okay. Yeah, that Click's like, yep, that's exactly what.
So one more name is, we're both his favorite.
Well, I don't,
and same with World Eaters. But
So-
Dealer of Death, Private Snafu, you've got your people. Greenleaf says hi. He's your people.
He didn't say hi. Those letters together do not equal hi. All right, I'm going to switch over to full screen real quick
Switch it
and
over.
talk about this. Boink.
I'm gonna keep painting his boots.
Yeah, keep painting.
I want to keep going.
All right, so let's back this out a little bit and let's take a look. So I would start with plasticard, either white or black. I've got black sitting here on the desktop. I don't know where all the white went, so let's see if there's any white. White would be my preference to use. The black that I have is super thin, so I would use a thicker plasticard than this, but just because it's what I have here and I don't know where the other stuff is, we're gonna go with this. So I would take plasticard. So we were talking about the Gundam that I'm doing that Grenz and his brother sent, right? And it's the Exia ignition mode Gundam, right? And so I've got it in this pose where the sword arm is back here, and so this arm holds the big blade, right? I think the blade is actually on the, I don't remember. So there's a big blade, right, somewhere on the arm. I think it comes off the back of the arm. So there's this big blade, and the idea on the diorama is that he's slashing the blade through the guts of the enemy. And so what I'll do is once I build the enemy Gundam, I'll go in with a Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel, and I'll slice, a big chunk out of the midsection. Not cut it fully in half, but just cut out a slice through the model so that it looks like the sword went through it. Then on that one, I will probably take a hot screwdriver and melt the edges of the plastic on the enemy mech so that it looks like, the blade went through it and melted the metal as well. But then as the sword comes out, in order to give a dimension or an action feel, right? Let's grab a card. I think I do have my pencil. We just moved the studio, so...
Pencil's on your tool thing.
Ah, yes. Smart. I put it there for a reason and then forget it's there. So
you have me.
yeah, you remember all the stuff I forget, which is good. Makes us a great pair. Okay, so imagine that we've got dude in the stance, with the leg kicked up, foot, back leg, doing its thing back here, right? And then this arm coming through like his other arm is destroyed, right? So we got him like this. Now the sword, as it's being sliced, is kind of doing one of these, right? So it's coming out like this. If we were looking overhead, right, we'd have his body and the extended leg and the leg up and this arm back, and you can imagine that the sword slice would have done this kind of a thing, right? So I'll have the enemy over here with a slice through its midsection, dremeled out and done whatever. But I would create on this side of the model with plasticard, I would create a flame kind of thing almost that comes out like this, right? That has this shape. It's wide and then tapers off. And then maybe at the tip of the blade, I do the same thing. I make another plasticard trail that looks like a comet, kind of, right? So that now the diorama, if you can see through my scribbles, you can see how now we've captured that arc. We have to make these in that arc. So, you would draw it on the piece of, like I would draw it on this paper. I would draw this shape, right? And then I would take my plasticard or, whatever, and I would lay it over, and I would cut out the plasticard to give me whatever shape I am really looking for, taper it off, let's say, and do like this, right? And that would attach to the enemy model, right? This, wherever the abdomen opened up, this would be cut to fit the model. So maybe it has to be like this at the sides. I'm actually drawing while watching the screen. That's very hard. Right? So it might do like this so that the model fits in here and you can glue it to it. But now you have this shape that comes out that puts an action to the whole scene, right? And eventually gives us this, where we can show that there was an arc and there was motion. It's like whenever we, if we draw a picture with like a fist, right, and doing a punch, right, and you got this arm that comes over and, you've got whatever, right? You've got a fist and knuckles, whatever, and then you want to make it look like it's actually, throwing a punch. Well, then a lot of times you would do like these motion lines, that you'll see in comic books that give it some, because there's a visual to it that shows that, okay, it got there through moving this direction. That's all you're doing, right? So if you're wanting to make it something where two swords are clashing in the middle, you might have it to where, you've got the blades interacting however they are. This is kind of like an X. But then you would do, like out of the plasticard, you could make 4 little blast kind of things coming out. Again, I would always do them bigger in the center and then, kind of flame shape or comet shape out like that. And you could do one over here, right? And then you could do one over here, right? And then one over here. And layer them so where they're in the middle. And you wind up with those 4 shapes that come together like that. And once you get the plasticard cut out, you can bend it, heat it and bend it and make it wavy as you want. Fold the edges a little bit. Maybe use some green stuff to give it some dimension so it's not just a flat piece. Play with it a little bit. Use sculpting clay. Mess around with it. Cut more little pieces. So you've got like, maybe you've got a little piece coming out like this, to make it look like more of an explosion. You can do stuff like that. You make it whatever you want. But now it gives it that action, that boom. But you just want to give the largest dimension where the contact point is and taper it off, because that's what gives you motion, right? If they're all the same dimension as they spread, or if this were the same dimension as it came out here, it looks funky, right? It doesn't give it that motion because the tapering gives it time, right? It adds that dimension of time to it, that this was a big blast, but over time as it moved away, it shrunk and faded and dissipated. So you get time, which gives motion. Does that make sense? So that's the big key, is always just find some way to taper it, the explosion, or whatever you got. That help? Damn, Cola. Hopefully that kind of answers the question. Then as far as painting, it's just your standard OSL stuff. You would just paint, start with a dark color, brighten it up, brighten it up, brighten it up, and then use your mid-tone darks to give the highlight colors to all of the sword edges and stuff around it. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see it. That's a big project. That'd be a lot of fun. right? But this is what I plan to do on the Gundam one, right? I'll do 2. I'll do 1 as it comes in, and there'll be debris. Like I might cut pieces off the armor and, you know, glue like a armor piece flying off here, or a chunk that, you know, basically just glues to the energy coming out, and take a couple of pieces here that you can paint and weather, right? So that the energy, the bright energy look or fire coming out of here, you know, then has something real to ground it that makes it look again like something fire and not just a piece of plastic, right? So I might do stuff like that shows chunks coming out of the body that he's torn up, right? And maybe another, you know, maybe you have another little small chunk over here and whatever. So you can do other things that give that dynamicism to it, but that's the easy way. So good. Now, I mean, that's the fun stuff of modeling. That's the stuff that as a kid, when I learned that, oh my God, you don't just have to build a tank or a plane. You can build a tank and then you can put it in a scene with a bunch of mud and, you know, dudes running and splashing and snow and, you know, things like that. And it gave life to the scene that made it look like a photograph of actual, you know, wartime footage or something. And those things, I think, are phenomenal. If you can tell stories that way, those little diorama things, just our little alien one, right? I feel like is super fun, from models that don't have a lot of dynamicism to them, right? But you stick them in a scene, and all of a sudden now you've told an entire story. Now, like so, right? And so we still have some work to do on our lighting and such, but we're getting really close on this thing. And it just adds another dimension to just model, rather than just models sitting on a shelf. Now you've got a whole story being told, you know, even though there's not a lot of, you know, action necessarily, we've brought a movie still into focus kind of here. So I have the most fun when you get to find models that inspire you to do things like this. Yeah, it's funny that it's Chibis in this case that inspired me to do this diorama, but not exactly my forte. But the Impact Miniature stuff has been so great that I've really enjoyed that. Yeah, eventually, World Eaters. That's one of those I really want to do it. I lost a lot of steam on the Gundam stuff when I had to build another model because they take so long. And I built 2, and then I felt bad because I didn't want the Gundam fighting the Zaku. So I now have the other one I got to build, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to give up 3 days of my life to build another model. So fitting that in is a little tough, but when, you know, a resin model like this goes together and you can sculpt band-aids and all the stuff you need to do to customize it in a day, you know, and get this much paint on it in a day, you know, it changes your view of how to do stuff. So it's kind of my old man time outlay view of the world. All right, so Jen and I are out of here. I don't know what you're going to do. What are you going to do? You going to sit here and paint more?
I don't know, maybe.
I need food. I need to stuff some food in my neck. But we'll be back on Tuesday. We're loving the new studio. Hopefully everything has been working other than me sitting my head in front of the camera. I swear I'll get better at that. Bear with us as we get used to the new setup. But hopefully all the sounds and stuff have been all right. I haven't heard anybody complaining. So I think all the sounds we got right the first time? Question mark?
Hopefully.
I feel like the stream ran pretty good. So that's good. Make sure you keep checking out the store. Exclamation point sale.
Sale still.
Yeah, exclamation point sale in chat. It runs through November 6th. Yeah,
all
everything.
The basing material, not everything.
Everything except for a few brush types.
Yeah, brushes, soap.
Soap. You can get the soap in the brush care bundle.
Soap in
I don't
the
know how many
brush
brush
care
care bundles are
bundle.
left, though.
Yeah.
There weren't but like a dozen left last time I checked. So anyway, lots of stuff on sale over at the shop, slowfusegaming.com. Enter exclamation point sale. When you get through, load your card up. At checkout, you'll see the coupon is there. Just click on it to apply it, or enter in Halloweeny in the coupon box, and it'll get you 25% off everything. Like literally, some things right now are as low as you'll ever see them. Bags.
Bags. Get
Literally,
your bag.
bags are the best deal right now. Bags, racks.
Get yourself a bag.
Ridiculous. Like
Right.
literally by
Buy
buying a
yourself an
bag,
early
the
Christmas
25%
present.
off I think pays for shipping most places.
Probably.
For the bag. So it's
Yeah.
basically like buying a bag and getting free shipping. So it's awesome. So anyway, give us a chance over there. If you weren't familiar, we do run our own hobby store. All of the paintbrushes and stuff that you see us use, especially Jen was painting with a brush tonight. All the brushes, all the stuff that we make is available there, as well as Vallejo, Army Painter, AK, all sorts of basic materials and really cool stuff to bring your projects to life. So give us a shot to be your local hobby store. It helps support the channel and let us do things like this, all the cool free tutorial stuff that we do, get to hang out and paint with you guys, which is always awesome. We're out here. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday at our normal time of 2 p.m. And then next week we'll be streaming as normal. So hopefully back on schedule and on the clock. So thanks so much for hanging with us. Thanks so much for all the new follows, all the new subs, all the resubs, all the support you guys have shown, and all the love. Even funding Wet Willies, I guess. Maybe. That seems cool. We're out of here. Have a safe and wonderful weekend. We'll catch you back on Tuesday,
Bye,
gang.
everyone.
Adios. You're close enough. I can touch your butt from here.
You can if you want to risk getting a smack.